Flamengo still has the opportunity to pull an upset against Damwon, and that would actually eliminate Royal Youth, assuming Damwon's able to close this game out.
Yep.
So a lot of things still contingent on the rest of the day.
Yep, Damwon, of course, if they win here, they will secure knockout stage, but
Correct.
they won't secure first because Flamengo can then beat Damwon and beat Royal Youth and then be even with them at 3-1. So we'll see whether Damwon can secure that first seed after Game 3 or whether it is going to be waiting until that Game 5 that you were talking about. An exciting group, though, as Damwon at the moment looking like this game is in the bag, but still a whole lot could change even after this.
I mean, we've been able to see some signature Showmaker Akali, some repeat of Nagari's Vladimir greed build.
He now has the Void Staff as well. You go Void Staff third item if you just don't need any utility whatsoever. And Nagari just does it basically ever again.
Yeah, I think this Nomads works like only on Vladimir. I'm trying to think of other champions that you could pull this off on because it's not gold efficient when you buy it. It really is just the CDR. Like it's one of the cheapest ways you can get 10% CDR, and then eventually it will pay for itself. He almost never gets the gold coins because if you lasted a minute, it doesn't drop a coin, mana or gold. And if you're alone in a lane, no gold coins can drop, even if you're missing CS. So he's very rarely picking up coins towards a support quest. He's just using some of the passive gold per 10, but assuming he waits, it does become the cheapest form of 10% CDR.
Yeah, he just didn't want to build a Proto Belt because Proto Belt isn't a death cap.
Yeah, I mean, building the Nomads delayed his death cap, technically.
Well, yeah, in theory. But I just wanted to get to that CDR, which is very close. It'd be like, what, 43.5% CDR? Which is a lot. It's more than you should have, as the charge is going to be in. It's used defensively once again from Armut. Gets towards a back timing, but the base is still standing here from Royal Youth. They haven't lost any inhibitor turrets just yet. They've just lost a heck of a lot of gold around this map. 10,000 gold is close to the lead. 5 Drakes have already been taken. We've got a 6th. This is what happens when you get a 5.5-minute dragon.
This is true. And all 6 could go to Damwon.
Yeah.
When's the last time you've seen that?
I haven't seen 6 Drakes for a really long time. Yeah.
I've seen 6 Drakes in games, but they almost never all go over to the same team because usually the game's over by then.
Yeah. Well, here's an engagement. We're looking for Beryl. Aftershock is going to be there, down to about half health as he does get the flash dredge line in order to get out. Featherstorm's there from Pilot, who flashes over the wall to secure the kill, but now Nuclear diving into the back line. Boom goes the dynamite, and 2 kills are already there. Meanwhile, Showmaker and Canyon were just executing the Galio as the teleports are in. We're looking for the end of the game.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're still not going to see the 6th Drake.
Oh, I know, it's frustrating.
Oh,
4
man.
minutes in. Oh, can we delay? Can we delay, guys?
Yeah, I'm glad Royal Youth went for a fight there because they were inevitably going to get bled out as Vladimir builds more and more items. But it looks like, this is going to be the end of the game. 20-second death timers on both solo lane carries and the triple mountain as Damwon try and push through for the end.
Yep, no charge on Armut as well as the Nexus turrets are now the targets. In goes Tolerant, gets the grand entrance and lands it there onto Nuclear as well, but he's only going to lose half of his health bar, and Showmaker is destroying the back line, which consists of only a Kled. Closer turns up, but that's 1 E, and he's down to 2/3 health. The Nexus is the focus. Showmaker goes golden, as at least one of the kills does come in for Royal Youth, but now it's 3-0 for Damwon, who secure knockout stage.
GG for Damwon. They said after day 1 they were playing at 10%.
Is this 20, Jack?
Yeah.
Where do you think we're at?
So, I think they were not playing at 10%. I think that was an exaggeration. Yeah. I'll say they were 45, and this was a solid 70.
Okay.
Yeah, because they still had some of that sloppiness in the early game, but as terms of hitting their power spikes, getting to their items, and then making something happen, I think Damwon did very well.
Yeah, and I think this was also the Showmaker that he wanted to show on his first day out here as well. This was the flashy player. This was diving the backline, executing exactly how he wants to on this Akali. This is what we wanted to see on the world stage. His performance versus King's Own Dragon X, that one play on the Akali, just probably some of the best League of Legends that we saw in the LCK Summer Split. A joy to watch, and so good to see at least a bit of it represented here on the world stage already in play-ins.
Yeah, and I think just as far as getting a few reps in the play-in stage, it can be very valuable for Damwon Gaming. I mean, there's a reason that the people in Group B and Group D are just waiting with bated breath, is Damwon going to be in our group? And if they aren't, they'll be, yay!
Yeah,
And if they are,
exactly
they'll be like,
right.
oh no, what are we going to do about Monopoly Vladimir? Like, it's just, what can you do against that guy? No one else ends up pulling off Vladimir the way this happens. And obviously, we haven't seen it against a top LPL team. We've seen it against top LCK teams. He actually does the same thing half the time.
And we've seen it against the LPL, I believe, at Rift Rivals this year as well. And it still went pretty poorly for the LPL. But for more on that game, let's check in with the analyst desk.
Monopoly Vladimir buying all the property on Boardwalk and making Royal Youth pay for it. Nothing. Let's talk a little bit about the Monopoly Vladimir, but more importantly as well, the rest of the draft and what Royal's sort of answer was into Damwon today. When we look at the draft, there were some strong feelings. I know Jat was quite sort of hopeful for the Kled if it could work, but there was a timing window.
Yeah, and I do want to focus in on that Kled and kind of talk about what the win conditions are or where the window was. So the Kled is cool because you have the grievous wounds, so you can try to combat some of that healing, and then you also in its impact with Bear Trap on a rope to try to force the pool out of Vladimir. So you can see how Kled should be able to play around a pick that they obviously left open. You know that Nuguri can play. You know that he's probably going to go for it. It was just now, could they make it work?
Yeah, and I even think holistically for the draft overall, this is both teams kind of getting what they want. It was pretty quick. Damwon just locking in the Vladimir that's open. And then on the other side of the coin, I like that Royal Youth went back to early aggression. You mentioned the Kled. They have the Zaya Rakan again. They have an early game jungler in the hands of Closer on Lee Sin. He, I think, had a pretty good performance. And
amazing performance.
And overall, I think this was a solid game on both fronts, even though it was very one-sided.
Now, why did it not work? We have a couple of replays of Nuguri playing this Vlad in the top lane, but talk me through the step-by-step process.
Yeah, and I do want to harken up on this, as the casters were kind of alluding to, because this is the early game matchup. This super early trade in the hands of Armut actually goes very well. He's going to get the flash out of Nuguri in just a few moments, and we were talking about it, the draft. With this advantage, this can actually be a big pressure point. When you mentioned the grievous wounds, it's 60%, and every other champion only hits 40.
And then once you have that flash, he really wants to try to bounce the wave. Armut wants to bounce the wave and try to freeze it away from Nuguri, but he makes his back, he has the TP, and he brings a Doran's with him.
Yeah, and this is then the other big swing back, right? Like you mentioned the Doran's, it's double Doran's for Armut, and Nuguri's building towards his Seekers, and the fact that this Bear Trap on a rope misses, Closer comes through, extends a little bit more, and cops a bad trade on the back end. Like, this was their window to punish Nuguri, and now you're in this situation where Seekers is completed for the Vladimir, Armut has double Doran's, is looking for a reset, is already losing trades, and it feels almost like the attack on the top side of the map is just over. There's no more windows left.
If you were able to punish that flash, maybe you don't end up in a scenario like that, but as soon as that fail gank happened, it felt like Vladimir was guaranteed to get to level 9, that he was going to coast to lane. Jat set it on cast, you know, they checked in the lane phase, 700 gold lead for Nuguri from the...
Two and a half kills.
Yep, just free.
Chilling. Klepto, right click in your head. It's
just Monopoly. Do not pass go, do not collect 200.
No, he is collecting 200. Like, he's collecting lots of them. 3.5.
Do not advance to knockouts, because that's the risk now for Royal Youth after losing the game.
Now, I will say the adaptation that they made after that gank went awry up into the top side was, okay, everything is going down to the bot side now. We are going to repeatedly gank it. Lee Sin was running down there. He had great setup, because I agree with Ejim. Like, they didn't have to change anything. Having the Zion Rakan, the priority pick on Kaisa for Nuclear down there, like, it was set up perfect. It just, they couldn't break it as hard as they needed to.
Now, what was the emotional reaction to the mid lane team fight that Royal won? They set up a play, they cleared the Galio engage. I was jumping out my seat, but you know, what did you think when watching this?
Holy crap, in all honesty. The fact that they're winning a fight at this point is pretty big. Tolerant, huge 4-man taunt on the Rakan ulti, 3-man knock-up at the back end was key in actually getting this, and then Kled compositions, just because of the remount mechanic, he's just chilling, chasing forwards, brings everybody else with them, and this is a moment that you're looking at the game state, you're surprised that it happens, and maybe Royal Youth can make something of it.
And you brought up a great point, Ejim, when we were watching that. You talked about, you know, the difference between the Kled pick and the Renekton pick is that you have another form of engage. You know, the Renekton really has to rely on the flanks. Kled can just zip on in there. So again, it was kind of about pick your moments, pick your windows, and with a champion like Kled, he was bringing more tools where they tried to act on those windows. Yeah. And even though Seal and Tolerant had a great CC chain, the Rakan into the Galio, it just wasn't enough because Canyon was able to slip away. Yeah. If they'd gotten the jungler there as well, maybe that transitions into a Baron, and maybe you're on the other side of a Royal Youth win. But it was multiple times, they took their shot for the windows, and they just didn't find the target.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing in terms of this game did go the expected way. You know how Damwon are going to play, but drafting another reliable engage tool, like, it's not fancy League of Legends, and the fact that you know something is going to happen, like guaranteeing at least your opportunity, I think is super important. And that's why, like, we're sitting here in a very one-sided affair, complimenting Royal, being like, okay, this is actually looking good, even though they lost handedly.
Especially when you compare it to some of the games that we have seen over the last 3 days, where there have been individual mistakes, decision-making errors, problems. Despite the fact that Royal lost, they were outclassed. You can see in terms of the stats, in terms of the gold graph, etc. But the decisions that Royal made were the right ones. They just failed to execute, like that top lane dive. In a gold deficit, they win a team fight in the mid lane. But again, you're coming up against individuals who are simply better players. And then when they have a lead, they play the map exceptionally well, which is why Damwon won in 30 minutes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's not even individuals in terms of skill gap there. It's compositionally. Like, the composition from Royal Youth is like, we get an advantage, and then it's either going to work in the first 15 minutes, or they're just going to split push us to death, and we can't do anything. It has to go that way.
I keep cutting you off, sorry, Agent. But I think I like about that, which we've discussed a lot.
He does it a lot.
When you are playing against a team that is better than you, you have to get ahead early. Don't run the risk of going late, and that's what this draft was.
Yeah, because Nuggery is inevitable. He just clicks the fingers, and then all of a sudden the game's over.
I love it. Listen, the Oppo player of the game was Showmaker on his Akali. He popped off with a little bit of debate, but what a great performance.
Okay, now first thing first, I want to point at Galio, because the Galio changes were big here. He can't flash, he's got the taunt. If he could flash there, maybe that's a different outcome. But in credit to Showmaker, he really was just flexing on kids with the Akali, showcasing the mechanics there. Also, do want to give a good shout out to Aftershock on Barrel. It was really close. We were looking for Pog. I'm like, I feel like that Aftershock rune has really saved a lot of fights here, because they keep going in on Barrel and they can never quite kill him.
Yeah, and I think the big thing to highlight Showmaker just on the back end, right? Like the side lane plays, it was a huge pressure point in team fights. He was picking on Pilot, that as the game progresses, we're saying Royal Youth don't have that many options. The fact that he's forcing out Featherstorm, and meaning that the damage charts are so one-sided because Xayah just can't right-click, that's why he gets it.
Absolutely the case. With the win, Damwon are now locked for the knockout stage. Royal Youth now need Damwon to beat Flamengo in Game 3, and then Royal Youth want to beat Flamengo in Game 5. That will force a tiebreaker game for the second seed. It does go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. If Flamengo beat Damwon, then Royal Youth will be eliminated. That will be Game 3. We'll be doing a pregame for that. It's quite exciting, but seeing the form that Damwon came in, you have to be afraid if you're Flamengo. This is not the same Game 1 that we saw a couple days ago.
I actually don't think that Damwon have really changed the game plan yet. It kind of feels like the sentiment that Bryce is talking about, where you know that you're the better players, so you can just wait. You can just scale up. Like you see Nuguri on the Vladimir, where he could be cutting towards mid lane to force a faster mid lane tower drop, but instead he's like, nah, I'll just farm it out more. Like, I know we've got this. As soon as I'm level 11, we'll just kill them all.
But now, what do you think about how clean the performance was? You know what I mean? Like, I think Jat said day one, he felt Damwon was at a 40, 45. Today, they've come in at a 70. Even though maybe the game plan didn't change itself, holy moly, the execution really did. You know, the 30-minute stomping.
Yeah, I think it's certainly better. Not the best. Bottom lane is still getting attacked. They're still getting abused. And you were like shouting out, haha, MVP Aftershock. Like, those are very
saved him like 3 times.
Those are very close moments, right? Because Beryl is like face checking a bush. He's getting picked off, and Aftershock is saving him. And then the side lanes are collapsing. And so there are definitely moments. There are weaknesses in Damwon, but they're just not being exploited. So it is better, but it's not the best.
Okay, we'll have to see if Flamengo can find some weaknesses to exploit. That'll be Game 3. Before that, Group C is up next as Hong Kong Attitude and Mega Esports look to take a big step towards the knockout stage. Don't go anywhere. Sorry, I cut you off.
If Lee Sin's able to get in there, face checking.
Yeah, remember Beryl just doesn't have his flash available as the grand entrance comes forward, and it's just not enough. Closer, gonna have the ultimate coming down on top of it, and Seal is
a party.
Visit. Not gonna find too many taunts just yet, but Showmaker obliterates the backline once again. Finds Pilot diving off Skull is Armoon, and maybe Damwon have found the fight, but great taunt to get into the backline, and already Nogari has been taken. This could be the go sign for Royal Youth as Beryl just tries to distract. They go for the engage, but the grand entrance is going to be there. The heroic one, I tell a lie, is now Pilot. Finds himself the Featherstorm. No blade caller action's going to happen as Showmaker diving around the fight. A double kill so far. Showmaker is destroying the back line, which consists of only a Kled. Closer turns up, but that's 1E, and he's down to 2/3 health. The Nexus is the focus. Showmaker goes golden.
Hercules. I have been expecting you.
And I brought you a gift, so you can fight properly. Red Bull.
Ooh, how nice of you, but also rather foolish. Mine, no mine, mine, no mine.
Mine. Red Bull gives you wings.
thank you for meeting us back here in Berlin for the 2019 World's Play-In stage as we gear up for Hong Kong Attitude versus Mega Esports.
And the last time we saw these two teams play, it was actually a very close game. This group in particular has traded games all throughout, with everyone coming into today at 1-1. The other group that happened in Group A all ended at 2-2 miraculously, and then had to resolve in the three-way tiebreaker. So who knows what we're in for today?
Exactly. It's either exactly the same thing happens here today and we get a whole bunch of ties, or the opposite happens and we get a whole bunch of ties. But I personally just like League of Legends, Jat, so I kind of want it to happen. We'll see if HK can repeat the process of the last time that these guys met. The process of yesterday was, in fact, that three-way tie that we were talking about. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see whether the players are going to be able to bring it out for us, because Mega last time should have won, honestly. They should have.
It's what it felt like. They had so many more tools in their composition. They had a bunch of CC, and Hong Kong Attitude just picked a bunch of marksmen. If you remember that game, it was Quinn, Corky, and Zaya Rakan bottom lane with the jungle Lee Sin, and they just stalled long enough to Mega forcing a 50-50 Baron, which they didn't get, and then it was over.
Yep.
It was one of the lowest kill games, maybe the lowest kill game we've had in the entire playing stage, which is definitely not what you expected when you're thinking of this group, but that's what we got.
Exactly right. Well, Hong Kong Attitude going to ban away the Tristana this time around as Mega Esports get rid of the Gragas. Remember, side switch up. So in theory, we are going to have a bit of a change. It was that last pick that really did put a spanner in the works for Mega Esports, but I think the biggest spanner was not doing anything. As Renekton going to be banned once again. You were talking about the fact that this guy was picked a hell of a lot on this particular day a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And is now not going to be in 2 of our games so far.
I actually think it's super interesting because Renekton coming into the day had been picked 8 times and only won 2 games. Yet the teams are now saying, you know what, he's been picked too much. Yeah. It's time to not do it. But it's because I think the setup, if you're playing well, can be so fearsome and people don't want to get snowballed on. I am actually shocked that we just saw a blue side ban of Pantheon, because Hong Kong Attitude had the ability to force either a Kiana or Pantheon first pick for themselves, or force a trade of the 2 champions, which, if they are proficient in Pantheon and Kiana, would be able to do so, but they kind of just opt out of that trade, maybe because they just want to do their marksman thing again, and they don't want Pantheon to be a part of it.
I think it is respect to G4's Pantheon, which was so formidable.
But HKA could just pick it.
I know, I was being a little bit facetious there. Is the Zaya going to be picked away? We've got lovers across the rift here. Keep it together,
yeah.
as the Nautilus is going to be locked in second. And we go back to Hong Kong Attitude. Ezreal. Unified, of course, is in. They started a couple of days ago with Eminem. Unified is retaining his spot, despite the fact that he was the one to pick up a loss. There we go. We'll see whether the Ez is what gets them over the line, as Ezreal Rakan is something that, you know, Warangulus's Ezreal in that Ezreal Rakan bottom lane did actually come out to a victory. It's now Mission with the Syndra, another champion that escaped the ban list, has been very popular on that one so far.
Very true. Coming into the day, there had only been 1 pick and ban phase where Syndra was not a part of it. I think part of it is the fact that you can flex it between mid and bottom lane, but honestly, it's looked better mid lane, at least in this group stage, partially because we have mid laners playing it, rather than marksman players trying to pick up mages, but still, it will give them a lot of lane presence in the mid lane.
Yep, Crash holding onto his pick. Often we do see junglers locked in the first round. Not going to happen this time, and that's why the Elise is going to join the ban list. Lloyd, though, he decided to take away the Jarvan. Just secure a pretty comfortable jungler here for the former AD carry. Now jungler once again. I believe he also played some top lane. This guy gets around the rift a heck of a lot. And with Dale there on the bottom side of the map, of course, Korean player formerly on Ever 8 Winners, was on that team that qualified to the LCK about 1.5 years ago. Didn't stay there very long, but was still able to get in.
Yeah, and I think something that is a bit of an X factor for Mega Esports is the fact that Rocky, Lloyd, and G4 actually have a lot of international experience. So even though Mega Esports was Pool 3 and also loved the Jarvan Galio combo, even though they are Pool 3 and were considered by me and most others to be the underdog in this group based on the strength of the LMS and the VCS historically, the world's experience, I think, helped them in these first few days. Having Lloyd, a guy who's played so many different positions, just kind of helped the team maneuver around these really ambiguous situations. makes them stronger.
Yep. We'll see what they can do here against the Lee Sin, picked up for Crash. Crash, very practiced on this particular pick, was one of the picks that really got people excited back in 2017 when he was playing on that spring roster of Longzhu. Didn't quite work out there, but he certainly had a whole lot of hype behind him, as 3Z's Na is going to be poking his head out here on the Rift for Game 1. The answer, though, is going to be that Akali. All the way down to the final pick is that Akali, where last game, of course, was snapped up pretty quickly by Damwon Gaming, but now this squad from Mega is looking really nice in the team fights, especially if Rocky can cause some chaos in the backline, and then you have so much control and power with the cataclysmic entrance with that combination of the Jarvan and the Galio.
And Mega doesn't want a repeat of what happened the first time they played these teams, where they had what seemed like a lot of control and then just couldn't close the deal. In this game, even though there's not 3 marksmen from Hong Kong Attitude, the Gnar split push can do similar things in the late game where it just becomes overwhelming. So I think making sure they have the Jarvan, Galio, hard engage is what they've tried to do to solve it so they can win this one.
Yeah, speaking of hard engage, they also have the Nautilus there as well. So a lot of buttons that they can press to start a fight, and I like R-button-based compositions. It didn't work out for Royal Youth in our first game, but that was because Damwon were just a little bit stronger.
Just a bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. But oftentimes, I mean, Detonation Focus Me was what we brought up as an example last time, and that worked out for them. So have executable compositions, and you can decide the field of battle is, I think, very, very beneficial in these tournaments that are such high pressure as we get into Game 2, Hong Kong Attitude versus Mega Esports. And for more on the draft, let's check in with Law and Mega's coach, Warlock.
Different game, different bot laner against you this time. How do you think it's going to play out?
I think there's not going to be a lot of difference because I think the ADC position doesn't have an effect on the game, at least in the early stages. So I think there won't be too much difference, yeah.
And this time you bet on a team fight composition. Do you think it's going to be enough to beat them?
Hopefully. I mean, I think as long as our mid jungle, you know, can work their early game and mid game and control the map, I feel like we should be able to pull it.
All right, well, thank you for the insights. Good luck on the game. Now back to you guys.
And of course, Warlock was formerly a top laner, support, and jungler for Mega Esports as well before he moved to the coaching role. So this guy's certainly able to give advice on multiple positions for his team.
Yeah, thank you very much for the interview. And I think him bringing up the point of mid-jungle synergy is correct, because in order for the Jarvan Galio to not just instantly die when you jump in, since the Galio ultimate no longer gives damage reduction like it did when it was really at its height, they need to do well in laning phase, and Syndra Lee Sin, just based on champions, is a better 2v2.
Yeah.
So Mega does have to find ways to outplay, scout out Crash's Lee Sin, and then find ganks in 1v2 situations, because if it's a counter gank and the Syndra gets a kill or two, it could be really rough for G4.
Well, Pop barely missing the dredge line there on the bottom side of the map. Keep your eyes on this guy. His Thresh was fantastic a couple of days ago. Looking forward to seeing what he can do here. The all-Korean bottom lane for the Mega squad here with Duel and Pop. But so far, everything just pretty calm. I feel like HKA want to start the action a little bit earlier than Mega do this time around. Mega with a pretty comfortable 4-1 composition, but want to be getting towards those combo team fights with this Jarvan and Galio, rather than HKA wanting to get Crash around the map and really start some shenanigans.
Yeah, and HKA actually was one of the more unique teams coming into this World Championship in the fact that they so heavily all play for their own lanes. Their number of solo kills are really high, their number of isolated deaths were really high, and that's just how they often try to win. It's how they won the first game, is the Quinn side lane was able to get enough done, dying by himself and also killing by himself, that eventually the team was able to win. So it is expected that HKA will play aggressively in lane, but I don't expect them to group around objectives early.
And is that why 3Z has gone for the Summoner Airy? We haven't seen Summoner Airy Na for a really long time.
Yeah, it's absolutely more of a lane-focused poke build. Fleet footwork has just been so popular because it does give you the extra move speed and the extra sustain, but if he's confident in his ability to try and just get a little bit more damage in a solo kill situation, that's what the Airy can give you. I do think Fleet is better in this particular matchup, but we'll see how Rocky and 3Z played out.
Well, you can see already it's a slight advantage as the waves are going to reset into the middle here. Rocky just hanging out in the brush, but otherwise is feeling comfortable. Boomerang's flying in. And Rocky going aggressive. Like it.
Yeah, I mean, just taking this as a microcosm of the lane, that was pretty dangerous because Lee Sin could hop over the wall, get behind his ward, and then gank him while all of his spells are down. So using all of his spells when he's that far pushed up in lane was actually pretty dangerous. You don't see it play out in a punishing fashion, but the way he's playing the lane, depending on how they're communicating, 3Z might say, hey, this guy is being a little foolish with some of his spell usages, come gank him.
We'll see whether Lloyd can be there for that counter gank. I love that it sort of stayed true that Lee Sin versus Akali is still something that you have to think about. Akali doesn't want to get displaced out of her shroud by a Lee Sin kick coming in, and always pre-rework Akali hated the Lee Sin, whose Tempest Cripple would reveal her.
Mega Nart down. Lloyd would walk over ward with this gank, but it's all about trying to get the EQ and interrupt the hop from 3Z.
Yeah, greedy for the hyper is 3Z, but does get the second bounce of the hop.
So
Won't have that one now. He may have to actually flash, but the knock-up is going to come in. He's greedy. He's holding onto it for a very long time, but decides to blow it in the end. So successful gank there for Lloyd, assuming he's going to make a return visit.
Yeah, and he has a control ward down, which allows lane priority, and Rocky will probably be level 6 by the time he comes back, so that's definitely an opportunity for Mega to try and get an advantage up top lane, and they need it, because the bottom lane and mid lane are going pretty heavily over to HKA.
Yeah, Unified actually having a great time against the Korean bottom lane here of Mega. 6-0 for Lloyd, so wanting to hold on to that 100% win rate if he can. Cloud Drake is now being considered maybe another 6 straight game. In theory. For these teams. We didn't get to 6 last time around, but someone could have if they weren't too busy killing the Nexus. Very frustrating.
And that usually happens.
Nice scout of the week.
If a team has 5 Drakes, they probably have something else going for them that they don't need to get the 6-1 to win.
Yeah, you were explaining that as we were discussing it, and then so sadly for me, it just didn't happen.
Weird, the triple mountain team won a team fight.
Yeah. Quite depressing. Is 200 gold is the lead here for HK as far as these lanes are concerned. So you can see that Rocky has been able to balance things out. You mentioned things going poorly in the mid and bottom lane, but if the Akali can get out of control, that could be a massive pivot point here for Mega to play around.
Yeah, and pointing out the 6-0 record from Mega's Lloyd, they dominated their region more than any other team at play-in dominated their region, which is a blessing and a curse, because even though you're going to be confident in your ability to play, you're never in close game situations.
Yeah, it's
and
that fish syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, that's a totally different topic. I think big fish and medium-sized pond is like the best combination.
You think so?
Rather than like medium fish and big pond, then you just get smashed all the time by the sharks.
Yeah, that's probably bad.
Anyway.
Yeah, different conversation. I'm sorry to completely...
They're in a really small pond.
Uh-huh.
And they're like a medium-sized fish. So now that they're up against other medium-sized fishies, then they don't really know how to make that combat happen. So
yeah,
I spent way too long on this. The whole point is that they're not good at playing even games because they don't have practice with it.
Yeah, you need practice with a game that you haven't already snowballed completely out of control, is I believe what you were trying to say, but it was adorable watching you trying to get
We've got time.
Grand Entrance is not going to really be that, as the dredge line is going to land, and Kai Wing is going to go down to 300 health, get out, but otherwise it is just Mega's bottom lane taking no damage and being pretty happy.
Yeah, absolutely. They've really recovered the lane that they were getting poked out of a fair bit early, but really it is now on Mega to try and make things happen. When Lloyd hits level 6, G4 would probably look to crash something bottom lane, but it is really difficult to actually pull off this Jarvan Galio against an Ezreal Rakan. So as I'm saying what they should do, I actually think they should go top lane onto the Flashless Gnar.
Yeah.
So that's what I would expect them to do next.
You can see as far as gold is concerned, it is in HKA's favor, which is what you'd expect given what their comp can do in this early game. As Rocky does some back flipping over towards 3Z, but 3Z not going to have any of it. Still down 15 CS though against Viakali. And when we talk about matchups, range is often something that we have to highlight. So shout out to Rocky for being able to play this lane so comfortably, but without the flash does give 3Z a few less options when it comes to how aggressively he can play and the amount of zoning he can put onto Rocky.
Yeah, Crash is going to walk right over a ward, which if Mega wanted to be patient... if Lloyd was on top side, this would be such an easy 3v2 because the Galio was actually missing right now.
Yeah.
But Lloyd did show on bottom side, which is why Crash is feeling safe right here. He does not, of course, know that he's on a ward.
Well, Lloyd's going to use that extra information he has, going to move towards the mid lane here, making a bit of a beeline towards top side of the map in case Crash is going to stick around for longer. I have a feeling he's not going to be there in time as G4 going to get knocked around a bit there by the spears and the scat of the week. As Crash and Lloyd are going to butt heads, but 3Z gets a bit of lane priority and will move to the river first. Sonic Wave not going to find any of the targets and no vision available. Scuttle Crab goes over to Lloyd and now Mega move into the jungle of HKA. I like this. They managed to hit these spikes, grab those R buttons that they were looking for, and now they're putting the pressure on understanding power spikes that wouldn't necessarily be evident if you look at how the lanes are going.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just look at the jungle right now, the fact that he's delayed this blue buff for so long after the Scuttle Crab was taken was because he showed so much respect towards the Galio and the Jarvan, since that's exactly what they want to do. Even though they don't have the full items on the Galio or the J4 yet, the fact that they have their ultimates means they wanted it. And all it took from HK was a little bit of patience. They could still get their blue buff, and they're completely fine to keep scaling.
Yep. I think it's really cool when teams play towards their opponent's win conditions as well as their own. Denying what your opponents want to do is really, really important in League of Legends and doesn't happen enough, in my opinion. So Mega, of course, want to get their Jarvan and Galio around, so if you just avoid those guys, things looking pretty good here for HKA. So we'll see where they can start some fights here. As we've got an Ocean Drake spawning in 10 seconds. That might be the next port of call, although there are on the way pings towards Shelly, who's been alive for 30 seconds.
Yeah, so the question will be whether they abandon the Ocean Drake or go straight for the Rift Herald, because you can argue that an 11-minute Ocean Drake wouldn't be worth taking.
Yeah.
Instead, what happens is Mega's just getting the Ocean Drake with no Rift Herald priority whatsoever. And
in my league, that would be a suboptimal play, Jat. In my experience, I've been told a few times that this particular Drake take, not so good.
So we'll see if this ends up happening, but now this side of the map should belong to HKA. What I don't like is the fact that the Rakan is still running up the jungle right now. Note that the Ezreal with the smaller circle can also teleport back up if they decide to go for the Rift Herald. I'm learning all the new buttons. I realized I used the big circle when I should have used the small circle. We also have the arrow because they should be going in that direction towards the Rift Herald.
Yep. Okay, well, at the same time, Mission is going to be throwing some spheres around. Thank you very much. LEC Studio here in Berlin.
I love the positive reinforcement. It really makes me want to draw more.
I kind of want you to draw more. Yeah. But like, let's just chill for a second because we're professionals here. We don't like to throw out all of our tricks at the very beginning. As 3Z now with a bit of a minion wave to deal with. He's okay though. 20 CS is still the advantage for Rocky, but he's been ahead for quite some time so far. Mid lane's great here for HKA though, as Mission CS numbers are good, and the Luden's Echo has now come in, so he can clear waves very quickly and maneuver around this map as Rocky and 3Z. 3Z probably has to be more careful than this, because the amount of burst damage with that perfect execution is going to be frightening. It'll be all right for the moment as Galio.
Whoa, that's the direction.
3 members, exactly. That was a Justice Punch. Yeah, going somewhere.
Proto Belt Galio is actually very powerful, which is, I think, maybe why HKA didn't decide to all in that. But G4 didn't necessarily have everyone there, and I have a good reason to draw this time.
Okay.
You can see, actually, the Xayah has to keep moving up and down the river because there's worry about the Rift Herald. Since the Ezreal has TP, he doesn't have to make the long trek towards Rift Herald if they decide to fight. So this is telling me that Mega actually does care about the Rift Herald, and they're ending up actually ceding some bot lane control because of it, since Dale's teleport is down.
Sorry, I'm just mystified at how incredibly talented you are at utilizing the arrows and the circles. It is going to be Crash heading towards this this Rift Herald, and as if he was listening, going to utilize that added advantage as the double stun comes through from that Scat of the Week from Mission. Love it. Perfect execution, top side of the map, but misses the 3-point. Oh, and has to flash, survives in the end, and look, as long as you land enough buttons, that's the result. So Rocky really nicely done. Q gets in there and Crash will execute him, but we could have cut the video a little bit earlier, and therefore Rocky still looks pretty good. Lloyd gets towards the top side of the map as well and will defend this outer turret.
And that ended up being the latest First Blood at Worlds so far. But we talked about the Airy from the Gnar versus maybe Fleet Footwork for a little bit more sustain, and Rocky pokes him to a point where he can just decide to all in. He does have the flash on the Gnar, and then right here, missing the skill shot there actually ends up costing Rocky his life because it means he takes another turret shot and it gets him low enough for Crash to just run at him. Oh, the minions didn't cooperate.
Yeah.
And he dies. It might have been better. Nah, he was dead.
I mean, I wouldn't nitpick the end of that because honestly, I think enough went wrong at the beginning for that not to be all that relevant. So Mega's duel will move down towards the bottom side of the map. You notice I'm not calling him Dale anymore because my accent just doesn't allow for me to really honor his name enough. So duel is going to be what I'm going to be going for, guys. I understand that Dale is closer. It's just a little bit difficult for me, Jet.
Hey, I would...
Whoa, no plates at all.
I was struggling with the Ananasek word all of yesterday.
Ananasek?
Yeah.
Law taught me how to say it a little bit better. So I was.
Did you hear the story about the origins of his name and how the Cyrillic alphabet pronounces H's like N's?
No, I didn't hear that story, although you did give a bit of a Cyrillic alphabet lesson yesterday.
Yeah.
I tuned out.
You can check the bot.
Okay, well, I certainly will. That's my homework, because Unified's homework is staying alive. Bottom side of the map, Dale just going to kill him 1v1.
That is something that should never happen to an Ezreal.
Yeah, we weren't commentating it because we thought it was just a trade,
I thought he was just going to shift away.
Yeah.
So, dying to a Xayah who doesn't have to burn flash, not that great, but they're going to try and make a move back.
Featherstone comes in, Blake Call is fantastic. There's so much burst damage as Flash has to fly out of the way, and Kaiwing going to be there just to charm them all up with the quickness.
Now they want a Jarvan Galio because they know it's a flashless lead.
Yeah, Lloyd gets in there, Cataclysm. The Cataclysmic entrance is in fact in there as well. As the True Shot Barrage flies through, gets a couple, but not going to keep these turrets alive. As Unified with full health isn't going to be able to save his turret. Nicely done there from Mega. I don't think G4 was all that necessary, but it looked cool.
Yeah, he gave Lloyd the confidence and positive reinforcement to go and make the play. He said, jump in there, I got you.
And that's exactly what Warlock was talking about, mid-jungle synergy. And I think emotions are almost as important as gameplay, so I love that you bring that one up, chat.
All right, now they don't have Galio ult for Drake, but it'll be okay.
How are you saving this? How are you saving it? As HKA, they are at least holding full control as far as vision is concerned around this Infernal Drake. The first one that really means anything this game. We've had a cloudy one and an ocean. So Infernal Drake definitely pretty coveted here at 16.5 minutes as Crash is going to land the Q. That's a great knock up there from Lloyd. I like that he walks back a little bit, gets the knock up on the way out to stop Crash from following up as, okay, walks into a sphere. That's bad. Oh, the extended range so good from a couple of patches ago as Crash now caught out of position. The unleashed power, is it going to be that? No, it's not, as Crash is just going to fall. And now G4's got amongst it. Kaiwing has to get out. And that is just a 1-for-0. Crash going too far.
It's so hard to remember that stopwatch exists in the early game, because even though it's been in the game for like 2 years, you could absolutely tell that caught Crash by surprise.
Yep.
And it is why Lloyd's alive and Crash is dead. It delayed long enough, it kept Lloyd alive, and now, even though they still don't have most of their ultimates other than Akali, who's top lane without TP, they can again start looking towards the Infernal Drake.
Well, G4 was waiting in that brush, but they decide not to actually go for any fight. 5 members of HK are in this area, but they still pull away from the Infernal Drake. Top side of the map, Rocky, without a teleport, is going to be knocking on the top outer turret door. And that means that HKA should have been able to get the Drake a long time ago, right?
Most likely, but they wanted
to be there.
They want to confirm 3Z ran all the way down.
All right, play it by the numbers. They'll trade an Infernal Drake for the outer turret on the top side of the map.
Yeah, that was actually really atypical for HKA because throughout so much of the regular season, they didn't group for objectives and they just rely on individually outplaying people. However, this is a game where Unified got solo killed and 3Z got solo killed. So they do have to kind of pivot the way they're playing and think about grouping a little bit more, because if they want to play this side lane, just farm forever play style, they're losing it. And the Jarvan Galio threat on the sideline is kind of ever present and would be able to stop them from outplaying even if they get a 1v1 that they can win.
Well, Shelly is about to clock out, actually. There's a minute and a half left before Baron is going to spawn, but she is eventually taken here. Mega going to trade for that Infernal Drake, eventually getting themselves their objective. As finally, it is going to be taken down here by Lloyd. He has his Cinderhole completed, and I actually really like this. Rushing towards the Gargoyle Stoneplate feels fantastic when you have a Galio, because it's like you've got old Galio, because you press your Gargoyle Stoneplate button once you're inside your Cataclysm, and you feel so much more tanky. So really cool seeing a bit of the Galio of the past represented here based on the itemization.
And then the Galio can do the damage that you're lacking.
Yeah.
Because you've got full take Sharpen.
It's incredible. And because, yeah, the extra numbers, because you can't taunt Flash anymore.
Yeah.
They're
just making up for each other's.
I know.
Each other's weaknesses.
We were and this all goes back to Warlock again, talking about mid-jungle synergy. It's fantastic. It's like there's nobody else on the team. Beautiful. We just need a little love heart. All right, can you draw that?
I don't think that's why they made this, but mid-jungle synergy.
Yeah.
That is not hard.
Look, I appreciate the effort. That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
It's no longer mid-jungle synergy because the AD carry and support are mid lane. As should be done at this stage in the game, but appreciate the call out.
Yeah. Well, Gargoyle Stoneplate, like we were talking about, has just been completed. I believe that was a broken stopwatch turned into a Gargoyle Stoneplate. So Lloyd hadn't been home in a while.
Yeah, wow.
Hope he said hi to his parents.
Always do that.
As Unified clears up the rest of those minions. Having a look at this time last game.
And this
not big numbers, Jack.
It's the way these teams match up. So you can see the play-in average. This is combined kills per minute. The play-in average is 0.7. Some regions and teams are actually over 1 coming into this World Championship, but these two teams have such low conflict. We may see it here as they've all finally grouped together for this Rift Herald, or we may not.
Yep. And I like how Mega have been sort of defined as this team that capitalizes on mistakes. And that's how they play the game. And that's why, when we saw this matchup last time, they didn't do anything. Because HKA weren't making enough mistakes for Mega to understand what to do next.
Yeah, it's one of these things when you're trying to look at the stats of the team, you kind of have to ask yourself, okay, why is this team's combined kills per minute high? Or why does their early game look so good? And sometimes it can be the environment in which they are playing.
Yeah.
So HKA and Mega both play in very bloody, aggressive regions where other teams are constantly asking for fights. So they've kind of adapted this style where they know how to prepare for the fights, they know how to counter gank, they ward, they see it, and they can generate advantages off of predicting the other team. However, when two of those teams meet up against each other, if neither one of them are most standardly the initiator at even or negative gold leads, you end up getting games like this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stalemate, but thankfully Mega this time do have some options. Jewel doesn't have that many, but at least the Featherstorm one is going to be enough to save his life. But now, pretty key cooldown is going to be missing from the Xayah. But yeah, I think this time around we've got different enough team compositions where we can look at Mega and say, if you're not trying to find these fights with your Jarvan Galio combo, then you're making a mistake. So proactivity is going to be necessary for this Mega squad.
Yeah, the nice thing, though, is they have a pretty good fallback pattern with the Xayah, especially having the 2 kills early. And this could just be another solo kill.
This is starting a fight. Dredgeline's there. One of the skill shots has got a hit, and Pop is going to pick up the kill.
A 3v1 solo kill. But really, Rocky started that off, may have been able to finish it on 3Z, and then the rest of the team just guaranteed it. So if the Akali keeps getting ahead, that'll secure Mega side lane pressure. With the Xayah having such strong CS and 2 kills, that gives them late game damage. And then the Jarvan Galio not falling behind gives them strong initiation. So even though we're harping on the slowness a little bit, I don't think Mega needs to be in a rush for this game. Once they hit IE on Xayah is really the time they can start doing stuff, and I think that'll naturally line up with them being able to go and do Baron.
Yeah, and I think they understand that as well, because they even just gave up an Infernal Drake, thinking that regardless of whether or not we have that, we have a composition that is just going to be able to do more things in the later stages of the game. They're gifted over. The second Ocean Drake seems like they really like these ones, as we're playing with the minimap once again. Where are we going, Jeff?
Well, okay, I meant to do the solid line.
Okay.
They're splitting the map. If you just look at the color of the wards on both sides, and it's because they gave up the turret in the top side, they're going to try and get control of it back, but they have to be very careful in face-checking this jungle.
We'll see what the G4 is going to be collapsed on here, as HK will have that opportunity, given their vision that you so beautifully highlighted. Now Lloyd is patrolling around, wanting to destroy all of those blue dots. And now a reset is going to come in from HKA. They still had a couple of control wards there in their back pockets, but with the map getting a little bit darker, wanted to go back, get some of that money turned into items. Morellonomicon completed here from Mission and does have a stopwatch still yet unused. Unified with those couple of items that Ezreal's really, really love, is we've got some circles also coming in on the items on the other side. I was getting to those.
Those are the power spikes that you should care about.
So Morellonomicon power spike, something that I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about, and the dash cannon plus the Luden's Echo coming in for G4. High damage build out from the Galio, and the triple items that we talk about all the time from Xayah. See, I got there. It's just, there's a lot of items.
I just helped you along. I mean, I didn't even have to contribute to the conversation. I just started pointing the stuff.
Are you just going to be silent for like most of this broadcast and start drawing?
Just in the middle of the team fight, I'm just squiggly lining everywhere. It's like, I swear, that's where the Akali went.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a history.
I'm going to be very, very confused throughout most of this. It's like hard mode play-by-play commentary. I'm very much looking forward to it. But to catch you guys back up, it's about 3,000 gold the lead for Mega as we get towards 25 minutes. This was about the state of the game last time these two teams met.
And actually, I think it is looking better for Mega this time, mostly because HKA doesn't have that side lane power that they had in the previous game with the Quinn. So if Mega can find the right fight, it could be big. Jarvan's a little too far ahead, because even though they could Jarvan Galio, the rest of the team wouldn't be there for the damage, but now is the time they're setting up for Baron because they hit the IE.
Yep. And they've got a heck of a lot of vision around this area as well, as G4 just zoning with that taunt available. Dale there with Unified as they trade about the same, but that True Shot Barrage is going to make it much better for Mr. Ezreal. Close to Blade of the Ruined King, but still not quite there yet. Having the Iceborne Gauntlet, we've seen Trinity Force be a little bit more popular recently on the Ezreal for that bit of extra punch in the 2-item spike.
Yeah.
Unified wanting to have a bit more control, and I can understand that when he has to get away from an Akali. Yes, it's not going to help. The armor doesn't really do anything, but slowing her down, that's going to be a little bit more helpful.
Yeah, Akali does end up doing a little bit of mixed damage, so it's not completely lost. Has some AD and AP ratios as well. That's why the Gunblade is so good on Akali in general, but yeah, I can see him just trying to kite out the Galio Jarvan, but as you mentioned, will definitely make him lose the straight-up duels with Xayah.
No pun intended, of course. Also, he has to self-heal. Throughout this entire game, Kaiwing is going to be diving in with the Grand Entrance, and Crash and 3Z also going to be trying to lock up the backline of Mega, and they'll need to do that in multiple different timings throughout a team fight because of the Featherstorm that Xayah has available to her. Certainly has been something that we've been talking about a lot so far. This play-in stage, as Mega are just patrolling around, making sure that they have sole control of
moving
this Baron.
target ward.
Yeah, they need to kill that.
If they can get that, that's
you
actually
could
really
set
big.
the ward right there if you wanted to. But
There's like 6 wards on the screen.
Very low. The fight is in now as the Grand Entrance going to be answered by the heroic one, and maybe that one's going to be better. Still timing is brilliant. Oh, Jewel flashes, gets the recall on the feathers, but in the backline, Mission is going to get taken down. Rocky diving throughout this fight as G4 doesn't find the Winds of War, but does he have HKA where he wants them so far? It's 4 versus 3, but the Mega Gnar's in. Stopwatched so stunningly from G4, gets a little bit of a taunt on the Mega Gnar, but he's so healthy as well. Oh, he dives on through with the shuriken backflip and survives the turret shot. They managed to get the execution, and now Mega are going to back away.
Rocky weaved that final Akali E in so tightly to actually win the fight. The margins here are incredibly small, and I think it's so impressive that Mega are the ones individually outplaying HKA to get the advantage in this game. So watching the start of this fight again, it was a battle over vision. Daewoo was trying to hit that control ward, but unbeknownst to them, they were sitting on vision, which allows 3Z to go in there, and Daewoo's taken very low before the fight even starts. The Q lands, perfect timing on the Rakan ultimate, sorry, the Zai ultimate, then he goes in. But the rest of this fight is very interesting because one team has a marksman and the other doesn't. So even though G4 is very tanky, feeling very healthy, doesn't have the sustained damage, and it takes a little while for his team to regroup, and Rocky needs to get his energy back on Akali, but they buy just enough time, hook into E, waits out the flash, and then goes in to pick up the final kill of the fight.
Yeah, and even Kaiwing landing that grand entrance just not quite enough to lock down the Akali. So slippery is Rocky here, is doing his very best to really control this game for Mega. I feel like so much has hinged around Rocky this game, which is so cool given what we saw from this matchup last time around. It was 3Z being basically the one man on his team who had the lead. This time he's playing more of a team fighter, and as you can see, still pivotal to this squad, but Mega were the team that were able to win out in the team fight.
Yeah, and I want to see what happens now that he has the frozen mallet completed in his items, because there it is. I didn't
see it, Jack. Come on.
You're making it more than it is. You don't need to comment every time I draw something on the screen.
Just getting rid of little circles.
Because it is actually a point where Gnar ends up getting very powerful. He does a lot of % health max damage with his W, and if he can actually get the side lane advantage on Rocky, HKA can look to do what they did in their first matchup between these two teams. But if that doesn't happen, this triple ocean Baron setup is going to be the play Mega just keeps running over and over again.
Exactly. You can start it, you can pull away, you can get all of that health back, and then you can rinse, repeat, do it all again as G4 is going to wander over this very cheeky ward. This ward survives more than it should.
Oh, not anymore.
As the blue ward is going to be thrown down. HKA do find a decent true shot barrage, but now they know the location of Unified making his way in. Couple of key flashes not there for HKA on Mission and on Unified. Would be a dangerous fight, but on the other side of the rift, Mega have lost it on Rocky, Lloyd, and Duel. Not really what you want to have as G4 just patrolling the Baron pit. Side waves are pretty even at the moment, but I think this ARAM is probably something that both teams need to tidy up as far as side lanes are concerned. Lloyd eating some honey fruit, even walks back, bit greedy for the last morsel.
I think the more important thing is actually the wards inside the HKA jungle. If those control wards are up, it's much safer for them to face check into the Baron area. Even though it seems like Baron sometimes is the only thing you need to clear vision around, it's actually the approach to Baron where you need to clear the most vision, because then a team won't even be able to get in range when you start. All these teams seem very terrified, for good reason, of 50-50 Barons, and you can prevent that from even happening if you actually clear the opponent's deep wards within their jungle, which actually Mega just did. So if a Baron Forcer fight happens, it's more likely to be now.
Yeah, I feel like this has probably been the worlds where we've been avoiding the most 50-50 Barons thus far, as there's another cheeky ward in this Baron pit. Will eventually get taken down there as the control ward comes in relatively late.
But it's still going to force the fight.
Yep, half the health bar now on the Baron, but the turn is going to be in depth. Charge comes down, only gets Kaiwing as Lloyd looking for Mission. Cataclysm dives on top. There's the heroic entrance, but I don't know whether it's great when Lloyd is already dead. The taunt is brilliant though. Big Mega Gnar as the Feather Storm gonna try and avoid. Kickback there onto Pop, and Duel is gonna go down. HKA getting them one after the other. Pop is going to be the next to go down, and now G4, the last remaining Gargoyle, and Mega. They tried to go for it. They tried to initiate what they wanted, and HKA had the answers just as much into the flash, but they want to kill him, and they will do it. The ace comes through, and Hong Kong Attitude should be able to get the Baron now.
And even though wards on the approach to Baron are important, the absolute really most important ones are the Baron itself, as was proven in this fight. But the rest of the fight was HKA dodging the Jarvan Galio initiation so well. The Jarvan was taken to basically no health, did no damage, and then the Galio ultimate was actually just stopwatched by Mission, those pesky stopwatches. So once again, Mega can't get the Baron, much like the last time these two teams played. So HKA is very spread out here, and when the peel happens, they're just trying to pull off. Lloyd tunneling on the one Cinder on the side of the fight was a big mistake. Then 3Z comes over the wall, and Daewoo just kind of panics here because he's way further forward than he wants to be. He had to juke one way for the Kron, the other way for Gnar, and then Featherstorm backwards.
Yeah, the Featherstorm backwards was definitely the big problem there. I didn't notice that the first time this fight happened. That possibly could have been a little bit better there for them with the Blade Caller having so many more feathers to pull back, but hindsight is 20/20, and now Mega are going to have to look for the future to try and tidy this one up, because HK finally have themselves a gold lead. Having a look at the gold graph, it would certainly be like HK have finally poked their heads out of water.
Yeah, and just drink this in for a second. At 33 minutes, the Lee Sin did the most damage in a team fight.
Yeah, wow, Crash.
That's very, very rare.
I don't even know how that happened.
He must have got, we may not have seen it, but a multi-kick through, because the kick can end up doing a huge amount of damage if you get multiple knockups on it.
Well, there was a lot of stopwatches and feather storms and things like that. I believe Crash held onto it and then just booted Pop through the team, and of course does damage based on how healthy the person you kick is. And he's got a bit of health on him, does the Nautilus. Like it. Well, True Shot Barrage comes in, gets a couple, but you can see this tower not going to be long for the world. And as we were talking about, that gold graph is indeed, finally, HK get up from the depths.
Yeah, and Mega really showing an inability to take their small leads into advantages if the other team isn't opting into fights against them. HK has done a very good job of just kind of sitting at the back, trying to farm up, and then finding the right opportunities. And now Mega, again, is kind of put in position where they want to force. All that HKA is doing is walking up the cannon minions, utilizing their Baron range, and slowly chipping down the turret.
And you can see, look, their carries have massive amounts of damage availability. We've got a Rabbidan's Death Cap, we've got 4 items on the Xayah. This Mega squad should be able to find a team fight that they're looking for, but it's misexecution in the last fight that's really putting them behind, and now HK is splitting the map and denying that attempt at the next Wombo combo from this Mega squad. And 3,000 gold is now the lead. It's only extending. Remember, Mega were only able to get that to about 4,000 in their favor, and now it's HK really flipping the script on this game, much like they did the first time these two teams met.
Yeah, and now they have absolutely no vision in the jungle whatsoever, so trying to get a flank engage, which is what I think they really need, is difficult. Still 42 seconds on this Baron as well, which is already a very positive power play. HK8 is looking to continue.
Nice double stun.
Oh, there it is.
Very, very low. There's another Cataclysmic entrance, but Lloyd going to put it somewhere where we're not going to get any knockups. It's just used defensively. And if that Scat of the Week had have landed, it might have been a dead Jarvan. Still relatively tanky, but it did cost them the inhibitor turret bottom side of the map, and they're just bleeding objectives now. As Mega, they can't play against the maneuverability of Hong Kong Attitude, because they start their combo, they look for it, and then there's Arcane Shift, there's Safeguards, there's Grand Entrances, Battle Dances. Speaking of which, we're diving into the backline now. The quickness is brilliant, but the taunt is even better. G4 getting the work done, takes down Mission as the dive into the backline. Crash gets one off the end, as Pop is going to do exactly that. And the turret is going to join in this fight. Blade Caller doesn't get any joy, as back to the fountain for the majority of Mega, and Kaiwing now is going to be tanking up this turret. They'll ignore the backdoor bonus and get rid of that one in the mid lane. A chaotic fight, but definitely okay for HKA.
Yeah, somehow it ends up just being a 1-for-1, but Mega just kind of tired of letting the Baroned up minions beat down their turrets, decide for an all-in initiation, and since Mission was already flashless, they're able to get the kill on him this time. And here again, 6 Drakes, but the more normal ones are going to see 3 on Ash Team.
Yeah. Let's have a look at this one again, because there are a lot of things done and not a lot of time.
Yeah, so we're going to ignore the Akali Gnar 1v1 on the side of the map and then just watch the initiation from HKA. Really, I think, was just trying to buy time for the turret. And at the start of this fight, the fact that Daewoo is always low at the beginning of these fights, and the fact that Crash keeps landing these multi-man Lee Sin kicks is really what's giving HKA an edge in these team fights. I think compositionally, like, if Daewoo could not get poked out at the start of the fight, his Xayah would do much more of the damage, especially when Mega's able to kill Syndra. But Crash is doing enough work and they're landing enough poke onto the Xayah.
Yep, 3,000 gold is still the lead though, so Mega at least stemming the bleeding for the moment. That BF sword probably going to turn into the Bloodthirster for the double lifesteal build on Duel's side, and I like that a lot. Given the fact that he has been spending a lot of his time on very low health, you may as well get that extra lifesteal so that all you need is a minion wave to keep yourself healthy. I think talking about keeping yourself healthy when you've got 3 Ocean Drakes is a little bit insane, but he needs all the help he can get, apparently, Jeff.
It keeps happening. I mean, the 3 Ocean Drakes can be extremely good for sieging situations, but for the most part, Mega hasn't been able to work the sieging situations, take Pokken back off. It's either kind of all in or all out, so they're ending up to get very few benefits from these triple Oceans.
Oh, Crash now. He's just moving up in amongst this minion wave. Feeling very happy as this Lee Sin because he's been doing the majority of the damage for this squad.
Somehow.
Yeah, I don't know how, but look, I just quote what's happening, Jack. You're the one that has to explain it. Sorry about that.
It's because of the kicks.
But they are pretty pivotal, and we've got 6 items now completed for Unified. So this is about as strong as HKA are going to be in this game, and it's going to be Mega that are going to be augmenting this engage build more and more as this game goes on. So HKA looking to try and find the opening, the opportunity.
Might have a flank finally.
Yeah, there's the knockup. Looks for Unified, but doesn't get there as now it's just Lloyd by himself on the back line. No heroic entrance going to come in there as Lloyd just left on his lonesome, but he's not taken down just yet. 2 kills there for HKA though, and Lloyd was ignored. They just killed everyone else. We've got the instant interrupt on the heroic entrance. Dale now just in the backline trying to survive. He's done it for quite some time, but now Lloyd, no damage. That's the ace, and it's clean for HKA.
Mega fall apart down the stretch, and HKA just kind of wait for Mega to try and engage on them. This is going to be the game. 2 games in a row against Mega. They eat the early game deficit and come back in the late game.
Yeah, it feels like 2 almost identical games with very different team compositions, but the tail of the tape is basically exactly the same. The Nexus will fall down, and Hong Kong Attitude are going to draw first blood here for Group C.
Oh, and that is got to be a crushing defeat for Mega, thinking that they were so close to the 2-0 on day 1, to then be up again on the second day they have played, and to be staring at a 1-2 record will be devastating for Mega. On the side of Hong Kong Attitude, though, they are now 2-1, which at least guarantees them a tiebreaker to make it in to the next stage.
Remember, it was 1-1 for everyone here, so if we do have history repeating itself for Group C, it will be once again one of those 3-way tie situations. At the moment, things just need to go exactly the same as they did from that first time of asking here for these groups.
So far they have.
Yep, exactly right. And it was slightly differently based on, I guess, where they played around, but the tale of how the holistic teams performed was the same. It's so funny. Sort of playing around 3Z the first time, and then him being more of a team fight facilitator, and Crash doing a hell of a lot of the work there as far as the team fights. Really cool stuff to see this composition played in a way that I wasn't necessarily expecting from HKA.
I think a lot of times in these international tournaments, the team you see on day 1 is very different than the team you see the next time they play on the stage, but in this instance, it ended up being very similar, right?
Yeah.
I think Mega was unable to kind of regroup and find exactly what went wrong with their Baron setup. It still didn't work. It was very much the same story we saw last time, and HKA, I think, ended up just being the more adaptive team, because they're the ones that didn't get the individual outplays like they're used to doing in the LMS, and were still able to find victory.
Yeah, and Mega still not necessarily looking like the team that they were later in the day. So maybe slow starters, maybe they will be able to have that repeat performance, but I'm remembering that the reason they won the last time felt a lot about Mr. Pantheon, and not so much about necessarily the gameplay changing so drastically from this game to the next.
Yeah, and then also, the HKA Pantheon ban is a little bit worrying. You're going to have to use it on every game this tournament.
And you've got 5 bans, so you can theoretically probably fit a Pantheon ban in there. But let's check out that fight that led to the HKA Baron, because this was the pivotal moment, and we need to look again to see how Crash did so much damage.
Yeah, we know the fight was disorganized, but let's keep our eyes on Lee Sin, who did 4,000 damage in this fight. At the start, it doesn't seem like much, but he's just walking in. Where's the kick?
Safeguards there.
Somehow he's dead. It's probably on the Nautilus here. Oh, baby. He's the one who gets the knock-up onto Daewoo after his Feather Storm was shot in the wrong direction, and then with the red buff as well, just getting that extra damage on the chase down. Doesn't even need to land the Q.
I feel like it was like mostly cleanup damage towards the end there, but that kick wasn't as impressive as I wanted it to be, Chat.
Yeah, it still hit 3 people.
It did. It did. It was still good. I mean, yeah. Okay. Good point. Good point.
It's like a medium fish kick in a medium-sized pond.
I like how you just tie it all back in. Just beautiful. We had a bit of a trough here for HKA, but it was faster than the last time these two teams met. So good to see that HKA have tidied things up for the LMS, and it's not looking as dire for them at the beginning of this day, but they still do have further tests as we go on. Early days here, only game number 2 so far as we try and tie up these groups.
Yeah, we are one step of the way to having the full tiebreaker happen once again.
Yeah, but when we return, we'll be joined by Misfits coach Hussein Mousvi as Flamengo aims to secure a spot at the knockout stage. Love it, perfect execution top side of the map, but misses the 3-point. Oh, and Octa has to flash, survives in the end. It was the grand entrance, going to be answered by the heroic one, and maybe that one's going to be better. Storm timing is brilliant. Oh, Jewel flashes, gets the recall on the feathers, but in the backline. But I don't know whether it's great when Lloyd is already dead. The taunt is brilliant though. Big Mega Nara as the Feather Storm gonna try and avoid kickback there onto Pop, and Duel is gonna go down. HKA getting them one after the other. No heroic entrance gonna come in there as Lloyd just left on his lonesome, but he's not taken down just yet. 2 kills there for HKA though, and Lloyd was ignored. They just killed everyone else. The Nexus will fall down, and Hong Kong Attitude are going to draw first blood here for Group C.
We came to win. We lost before, but never again. Back on our grind, you know what it is. We gotta win.
Yeah, I feel like that's the difference between like the last time I came here in Worlds and this time, because last time was like I had no chance at all. It was like, oh, came here, let's enjoy, let's try to win some games, etc. But this time, it's my second time, like first play in Brazil, came in second time in Worlds, and like I said, sometimes maybe this is my last shot, so I'm here to win Worlds. I'm not here to win play-ins. Like that's why we won against Turkish teams, but I'm not like getting overhyped or something like that, because that it's just just a little step you need to pass, So yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, BRTT from Flamengo. And welcome back to State Farm Analysis for Game 3, where the man you just heard from is facing a massive challenge in the undefeated Damwon. I'd like to welcome Misfits head coach Hussein Mousvi to the desk. Thank you for joining us to share your knowledge. And we're throwing you straight into the deep end, because for Flamengo, they will be winning, earning themselves a spot in the knockout stage. If they can. And one of the ways they could do it is if they have a good Baron setup. Frost, can you set this up for me? And then Hussein, can you help evaluate how good the Baron is?
So when I was trying to gauge where to rank Flamengo and why I feel that they are the best of the emerging regions, it was really kind of off of this play, because we've seen so many botched Baron setups, especially when you look at Group C. I feel like it's really a thorn in their side right now, that it was so refreshing to see a team be able to snowball and then do the steps appropriately. And it's kind of about taking multiple steps. It's not just about getting your lanes pushing and then immediately turning on the Baron. It's, okay, you get priority into the mid lane, you shove that one forward, you walk in, that means you get to deny vision, you go back to mid lane, shove it forward again, that means that you're then taking control of the Scuttle Crab and getting your roam priority over the bot side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was really nice to see from Flamengo here is that every single wave, they had a very specific goal. The first wave, their goal is river, and then top wave. The second wave, their goal is walk deep into jungle, look for picks. And then third goal is like, okay, now we start Baron, they can't contest it. And every single step of the way, they had it planned out. It's clearly practiced and drilled, and it's at a very, very high level.
And I think the one big difference, Frost, that you're trying to highlight is just the fact that you're not skipping steps. In a play-ins format where we've seen so many skip steps, so many thrown Barons, and people just having to respect, like, oh, we're taking the Baron, we have to walk away, the other team is actually contesting us. Not doing that is how you transition an early game lead. BRTT and Flamengo, they can get an early game lead, but closing it out is going to be the important factor.
It's knowing what to do with it. So this isn't a case where a team just looks good because they got a random snowball and they just ran away with the game, which can happen. It's that I'm convinced that this team, even if they don't get that snowball, are able to identify what the correct decision should be and then execute on it.
Okay, now of course their opponents, Damwon Gaming, a significantly stronger opponent than Royal Youth, which is the replay we just watched. Damwon already through to the next round. With the win here, they guarantee that first seed. Damwon looked pretty good. Hussein, what do you tell players like Flamengo's when they're coming up against this LCK seed in the play-in stage?
So the thing with Damwon is, like, they look incredible, but I don't think Flamengo looks worse fundamentally in any way at the moment, especially like how we just saw with their Baron. So if anything, I would tell them play to their fundamentals, play to everything that they've drilled and practiced, because the differences in this matchup come down to the little things, the 3 to 5 seconds in fog, the small little pick that you find, and not fundamentals.
And I think that's also really important and how that lines up with BRTT's interview. He's saying he's coming into Worlds not to win play-ins, to win Worlds, right? There's confidence in the back of this roster, whether you believe they can or not. I think they're a team that is actually going to take it to Damwon, and that's what we've been saying we want to see from Royal Youth. They did it. Is Flamengo going to replicate and maybe have a better time?
Kind of talking to the other side and then flipping and looking at what happened the first time they played. I don't know, do we still have the draft and the ability to pull up lower third?
Unfortunately, not for the draft. No, not this time.
But to throw people's minds back to what happened, it was the Caitlyn game. And normally in a Caitlyn, you have a split map, but it was actually Damwon who initiated the split map because they had the Talia. And I just want to, here we go, just want to emphasize.
So sorry, production. We do. You guys are awesome.
Production's like, Trevor.
Sit down.
I want people to be so afraid of having a map flipped on them, where you just give an automatic strong side of the map to Nuguri up there, because Damwon every single time will shake your hand on that and say, that's fine. Like, Barrel Nuclear, do whatever you want to them, because you won't be able to break them hard enough for what our top player is going to do to yours.
And I think that was kind of the disappointment for the top side of the map in this game. Like, Talia into Rek'Sai, old school matchup. Like, level 1, you just literally cannot compete unless you've got like a Braum or something to throw there, which they don't. and they walk in topside, invade red, Robo gets ganked, loses his flash. At like 5 minutes, he's like 5 CS to 40, and Nogari's just like whacking him in the back of the head with no counterplay.
So, but the thing is, if you are playing strong side, weak side, and so they're on alternate sides, how much does this impact not only the draft, but then decision-making in draft? You know, you mentioned fundamentals look strong, but man, it's such a difficult game to play when you know somebody's going to be put in a negative.
On the flip side, though, for Flamingo, in their win with the Draven and the Thresh, there really was a Thresh that stood out, making so many picks in the jungle, and the way they were moving around the map to look for these plays, it's where Flamingo is really scary. So if the map is split, what ends up happening is it becomes a little bit predictable how people can move. Flamingo will be looking to open up, like, not have a split map as fast as possible.
In fact, Ejim, you brought up a great point now that Moosvi highlights the Thresh about how Flamingo use Lucy's Thresh to create plays with Shrimp.
Yeah, because I think in terms of their jungle matchups as well, I don't know how you feel about this, but junglers that can only go in and punishing like a squishy matchup like the Taliyah, you have the Rek'Sai, the Lee Sin, the Jarvan, pairing it with something like the Thresh on a support player that likes to leave lane, I think is actually kind of cool, because like Lee Sin goes in, normally just dies, it cops it on the way out, but like you just have this 1-2 punch of go in, lantern back, and then I think like you're mentioning, if you don't split the map and it's not predictable, you can get creative with these.
Can we get final thoughts from Hussein as we're almost ready for drafts?
Yeah, I think this is going to be an incredible match. If Flamingo is going to make it out of play-ins, and if they're going to contest for Worlds, if BRTT wants those claims, he has to show it up over here.
Has to do it right now. Has to deliver on the promise and take down Damwon. Damwon, of course, 3-0 in the group. It's time to hand it over to the casters to take us into the Rift.
Thank you so much, Quick Shot, and welcome to game number 3 of the day as well. Damwon, a possible 4-0 here, but Flamingo, now is the game to win. If you are going to upset Damwon, it is so huge for how things look moving forward, because that's almost guaranteeing that they're going to make it out, and in theory, they could possibly get that top spot as well.
Yeah, with Royal Youth sitting at 0-3, a win by Flamingo here would secure them a spot in the knockout stage, and then if they then beat Royal Youth and the tiebreaker will be possible for first. And it's amazing to me how much Flamingo takes on in terms of expectations, because it would be very easy to come into the World Championship and say, okay, our region hasn't had good performances in the past year and a half. We've been put into Pool 3 as far as play-in regions are concerned, and we're just going to try to make it out of the group.
Yeah.
No, BRTT literally says, bring on Korea, we're here to win Worlds. So, game 1 between these two teams, as they pointed out on the analyst desk, there was a huge mistake made at the start where Robo was put super far behind in the top lane. And then I don't feel like Flamingo was really allowed to play the game because Damwon was so clean from that point. They need to do everything they can to make sure they can secure at least a reasonable early game and then fight Damwon on closer to even footing.
Yep, and pretty standard bans coming in here. The Gragas away from Canyon has happened almost every single time, and the Draven from BRTT is not going to go through like it did against Turkey's Royal Youth. But the first pick's going to be a Nico, as Robo theoretically can flex that with Goku. Yeah. Last time out it was Goku that played the champion, but of course this is a flex pick. I like that for a first day out here as Canyon looking towards the Lee Sin, but Nogari just going to lock away his Rise and says, I don't want to do any swapping. I'm going to take my Rise towards the top side. Of course, in theory, can be flexed, but most likely going into Nogari's hands.
Yeah, and I also like how Nogari and Showmaker are willing to play each other's lanes as well, so you can not only swap players, you can swap champions.
Yep, and the Rek'Sai going to come in yet again for Shrimp, so we'll see how the early game is going to go. Malphite being hovered. He's been hovered a few times, but the Kai'Sa going to be the real pickup here. Yep. Blue side, blue picks. I'm into it. It's Damwon now their final pick in the first round. This has been going through very fast though, Jad.
Yeah, you can tell Flamingo is absolutely ready. Probably an Ezreal here for Damwon, but we'll see if they decide to do anything else.
Showmaker thinking about whether he wants to grab his pick, but no, it's going to be the Xayah. Of course, has been a favorite, but when the Kai'Sa isn't available, this is when Nuclear needs to finally change up his picks. 3 games at Worlds play-ins and 3 Kai'Sa performances. So now we're going to see that adaptation. Weren't able to pick it alongside the Rakan, so not likely that Beryl's going to be able to pair that with the Lovers duo. As the Thresh is going to be banned away from Lucy. I love that. The respect given to how he played that Thresh out, and now the entire bottom lane that Flamingo threw out against Royal Youth is going to be denied.
I like how Damwon's not messing around with that, saying, okay, BRTT, respect.
Yeah.
We're not going to let you play Draven because you were so dominant with it a couple days ago.
That's actually what I wanted to see out of Damwon. I felt like they weren't playing with the necessary levels of respect for a world stage like this. They were playing double klepto, looked like they were relatively relaxed, gave away things in the early game, and then were just better in the late game. I want to see Damwon playing like they're playing for their lives, because that's the real practice. That's what you really need when you get to the main stage. And they've looked dominant in this group, but I think they can show us more.
I mean, based on watching them domestically, I thought Damwon would be the 4th best team at Worlds in terms of my personal power ranking. So I have very high expectations for this team. And
that's a Yuumi.
So, okay, cool. Because Yuumi has been very heavily nerfed. The slow on Q, the prowling projectile, is only 20% at all ranks now. And
okay.
We'll get to the bike as well. When Damwon locked in Xayah while leaving the Rakan ban open, I was kind of curious why they didn't just go Ezreal. But if they just decided, hey, we're going to actually try out Barrel's Yuumi in this very nerfed state, since you basically never got to play it in your domestic split because it's been banned all the time. I'm curious to see how it works, but Flamengo's going in.
Yep, the Aurelia has been locked in, still flexing between top and mid lane, and Damwon gonna have to pick something pretty comfortable here for Showmaker. Yeah, Nuclear has not really been the Ezreal player. I'm glad you bring that one up, because it does pair nicely with the Yuumi, but it hasn't really been in his wheelhouse. He does like these more late game hyper carries. Gets behind the ability for his team to play early game around him very well, and that's the LeBlanc. So very comfortable for Showmaker in the mid lane. We've seen this from him already. And now, where is the Nico going? Where is the Aurelia going? The Aurelia matchup into either of these is going to be the tough one.
Yeah.
Let's see, looks like Goku is going to be the one bearing the brunt of it, theoretically, in the early game.
That is a very difficult matchup for the Aurelia. Even when Aurelia was at kind of her peak power, LeBlanc was still capable of pulling off solo kills in lane against it. So Showmaker will be a very formidable opponent if we don't see a swap in the next 4 seconds. But we do see a swap.
Yeah.
And it's going to be top.
So it's going to be Nuguri having a more decent matchup. We'll see how Robo's going to go here. Of course, Robo, no stranger to being put in a hole, but honestly, the rest of Flamengo around him did allow him to get within touching distance of that CS margin. It wasn't like a runaway victory for Damwon. I don't think that early game where the Aatrox, in the case of the game before, was basically a non-factor, was the reason why Flamengo lost. It was late game team fights. It was Damwon letting their solo lanes get out of control like they want to do. So I don't mind that at all, because Robo doesn't seem like the player that is going to tilt off the planet and then be useless. He's going to find his resources and still be relevant when it comes to the later stages.
Yeah, and I do want to talk a little bit about the Pyke pick from Flamengo as well, because I really like that right now into the Yuumi if he's going to be looking to roam. Yuumi is not a very good champion at following roams, specifically because it's just so low health and you almost always need to have that ally nearby. So because of how powerful Damwon's solo laners are, if Pyke can roam and get something happen, it's going to be big.
It's our third game of the day, Flamengo's debut for today. And of course, this LEC studio is about to explode. Brazilian fans, thank you so much for joining us. Let's see whether we can take down the Titans from Korea. Damwon Gaming already looking so dominant today. It might just be the 6th man that can pull them through.
Seemingly the most vocal fan base here in the studio. There's been a contest, really, between Flamengo fans, between Unicorns fans, between Splice fans when they were called out for not being as loud as the Unicorns or the Flamengo fans.
I mean, you say it's a competition. I don't think it's been any competition. I think Flamengo fans have been way louder than everyone so far in the play-in stage. They're going to have to win here. That's going to really blow the roof off.
Oh boy, would it ever.
Oh yeah.
Clinching through to the knockout stage, keeping the chance of a first seed alive, knowing they could beat Damwon, who comes in as a fairly well-hyped Korean team.
And probably the favorite at this stage, given how yesterday went for Splice, who were our other 2-0 team after their first day. Got a bit of a leash here for Shrimp at the beginning. But just to remind you guys, if Flamengo lose here, then they will be tied. Then they will be going up against Royal Youth, sorry.
Yep.
And Royal Youth has to win that in order to make a tiebreaker, and then they have to play once again. So in theory, this is still a pretty good time for Flamengo based on the fact that they were able to take down the Turkish representative. Nagri, this is one of the champions that if you're going to do like a lesson on how to lane beautifully, you'd choose one of his Rise games. His weaving of abilities and his use of sort of stutter stepping and zoning is pretty impressive, as we can see. Robo, not a lot of options.
So even though this is 8 CS to 2, it is already about 8 times better than what happened to Robo last game.
That's true.
Because last game, Robo was first to the wave to start it pushing. Then he got level 2 ganked by Canyon's Talia, and Nagri froze on him until 40 CS to 2.
Yeah.
So that completely took Robo out of the game. In this one, the wave is at least going to crash, and he theoretically should be able to pick that up.
And he's Aurelia and still does have the Blade Surge, so he can farm under turret very effectively.
Shrimp has actually snuck around Canyon here and has a chance to go for a gank onto Nagri. Robo's a little low and would like to kill these minions, but they're going for it.
Yep. Try and stay in range of the minions, Nagri, as he does manage to get the snare, but the flash forward, the knock-up, and Nagri's going to go down for first blood. The Q's going to register there from Canyon, but doesn't have the gap to close. And Robo Blade surges himself to the safety of the turret. Canyon still aggressively looking here as Showmaker gets the snare in the mid lane, but it's nothing like the kill Flamengo just picked up.
Massive first blood, but I don't know if we're completely done yet. Canyon's trying to keep the pressure on, and Robo is at about half health and has no one to come get him. If he can recall, he'll teleport back and be safe, and it'll be a clean first blood for Shrimp.
Yeah, Nagri, of course, just teleports all the way back in, so it's not as punishing, but Robo did hold on to the flash, and that is very important. Didn't need to expend that in order to pick up the kill. They used Shrimps instead, which is very intelligent. Another teleport going to come in. A couple of daggers done now as the Flawless Duet is in there. Yeah, a lot of auto attacks down as well. And remember, this is press the attack, so more damage in comparison to what Conqueror would be able to give you as far as sustain. There's here on the bottom side, looking for a Bone Skewer. Doesn't find it at all, throws it into the wall. Bit of a misclick there, you have to say. It's an unforced error from Lucy. Not expected. Had a great couple of games.
Yeah, definitely had the chance to maybe force some summoner spells out of that Damwon bottom lane, but all told, Robo now wants to try and get back in this lane. Problem is, Nagri has just picked up so much CS, and the kill ended up going to Shrimp. So even though Shrimp is probably most comfortable on Rek'Sai, you do want those kills theoretically going over to your Rally. It'll be on Shrimp to really try and hit 6 first and start to take over this game. He is capable of it. I saw him do it many times over in the LCS before he went on his international expedition.
Yep. Unfortunately, though, if we have a look down to the CS margins, Canyon has certainly been able to spring ahead after the fact that Shrimp did go down very, very low, gathering that first blood. So good capitalization from the Lee Sin on the other side of the map. As Nuclear does, of course, have the teleport, pairs it with Beryl's Yuumi so that he's able to still have heal and the ignite. Beryl not necessarily requiring the flash or anything like that, so he's absolutely able to do this. I do like the Yuumi pickup because a lot of the time you see Yuumi first picked, right? So it was up to what is our answer to Yuumi. If you pick her this late in a draft for Damwon, you don't have the volley bears causing a trouble. You don't have the Veins there with the Condemn to really ruin her day, or the poppies that can be put around the map. As yet, Shrimp's going to dive in from the back as the You and Me is going to be there. Nuclear already has blown the flash, and they just pull him back with the Bone Skewer. Good night, Nuclear. 2-0 now for Flamengo on the bottom side of the map.
Another good gank by Shrimp. Canyon's going to try and do something, but it is just one Lee Sin waiting there. Maybe they're hoping that the aggression sticks around with the TP bait. Seems like Canyon's been late to these plays.
Yep, wanting to try and shove this lane forward as well. As you can see, Flamengo do have the opportunity to freeze this on Damwon as well, making it very easy for that return gank possibility from Shrimp. Didn't even need the flash available in order to lock down that bottom lane kill. And Lucy may have missed one of those Bone Skewers, but landed it when it mattered. Now Canyon towards the mid lane. There's a control ward there, dude. You can see that. He might be a blind monk, but that one, I believe, was in his vision range. Showmaker now with this minion wave wanting to crash it towards Goku as well, but unable to get any of this turret damage just yet. Checking in on the gold, Flamengo are ahead 700. 2 kills working out for them. Nogari 20 CS advantage, but it looks like it doesn't matter too much. So now red buff is going to be secured by Shrimp as well. Canyon was in position, but unable to punish. First Drake is going to be a Cloud, so not really one that either of these teams are going to put too much priority on as we tick closer and closer towards Shelly making her way out onto the Rift. 3 minutes before she's going to be there.
Shrimp playing a very good early game, and this is the type of start that Flamengo wants and needs if they want to have a shocking upset of Damwon. Also realize when you're going through the standings, Damwon's the only undefeated team in play.
Yeah.
I think that is just so indicative of the overall strength of these regions becoming closer to parity.
Yeah, I feel like it is just a general upgrade of the world of League of Legends, right? I feel like the play-in stage has become more and more competitive, even though there are still our...
Mike Rome.
Yep, they're going to look for the Bone Skewer. Nogari is going to get pulled back as there's the Flawless Duet. Knocked up into the sky. Beautiful chain CC. All too easy. 3-0 now for the Brazilian squad.
And Pyke is their answer to Yuumi. Yuumi is not good at matching roams, and Lucy does such a good job, actually rushes mobility boots before even tier 2 of his support item, which is an incredibly greedy thing to do. But when you get the kills, it pays off, and they're coming in for more.
Yeah, back at it again as they're dive bombing around. Canyon gets the flash eventually, but there's the Vanguard's Edge, and there's BRTT's first kill of this game.
They are absolutely running through Damwon in the early game, Atlas. This is incredible.
Yep, really beautiful play here. 4 CS is now the lead for Nogari, so that gap is entirely closed. Look at all these plates falling off this turret. 8.5 minutes in. It's over 2,000 gold, the lead for Flamengo.
And they're also already looking like they're initiating this lane swap. So they're going to try and make this game as chaotic as possible and probably keep Nogari down. He's not the kleptomancy Vladimir here that is just that guaranteed unstoppable banker. He has been getting punished in this early game, and that's the spot where I think Flamengo should continue to attack.
Yep, the problem that we've seen in the past when it comes to Nogari playing the Rise is that he does a bit of tactical inting in the early game. He does like to push way too far. He does die in these ganks, but as you can see, still farming up just fine. We're going to have a look at how this one went from the perspective of BRTT.
Yeah, so BRTT has made the roam up, really just following up with the rest of his team to end up getting this kill.
Yep, good turret to aggro juggling as well from the Flamengo squad. But it's not an insurmountable lead just yet. Of course, you can never count out Damwon. They have been behind in gold before in these scenarios.
Yes. Also looking at the Aurelia build, full magic resist coming in from Robo. Wit's End most likely, which is very good if he can continue to get fights on either LeBlanc or the Rise. It means no one will really be able to match him in the side lanes.
Yeah, it's like Lee Sin or Xayah are your options if you want to try and negate the value of the Wit's End, and they're not going to do so well. Against the Aurelia, I really like the build choice. Not to mention Merc Treads being necessary if you're playing against the Rise, especially with Nogari's ability to constantly get snares despite the change to Rise.
Damwon, though, doing their best to get the plates back. Already got 3 plates down to this bottom side since there were 4 people from Flamengo sent up, and Robo really all by himself, but
yeah, I'm
Damwon's not looking for a dive. Now that his stun is down, they could go for something, but there's just so many people missing right now since Damwon's vision control is actually much lower than you're used to, and Robo able to soak a good amount of experience safely, so that's good for them.
But first Heart Blood does go over to Damwon. It's going to be answered with Shelly, which could be utilized in the mid lane, which will really be able to accelerate Flamengo's control of Damwon's side of the map, if that's where they're going to go. You can see Shrimp moving on down there. Now just going to look to see whether he can deny anything from the Damwon side. The chicken camp available.
Yeah, I think Flamengo should try and break mid as soon as possible, because the more they can accelerate this game and open the map, the more effective the Rek'Sai can be with his gold, and also the Pyke can be with his roams.
Well, as it stands, still Damwon unable to find any kills this game. They have brought it back to within 1,000 gold. Nuclear is going to switch sides of the map and team up with Beryl to get this top wave pushed out. Still a few plates that they can gather there, and still a few minutes before those plates are going to fall as well. Keeping tabs on that, it is still Damwon that's been able to keep their turrets the most healthy. But Flamengo being able to pick up so many more of these kills. Which one is going to be more important is going to be the question. But I think it's such a beautiful... Oh, okay. We're just going to have a fight first.
Might as well just go.
Dives in. No snare to happen as there's the root caller. And oh no, Lucy just destroyed the final chapter red to BRTT, who's just running for the hills. And Noguri now has the flash, finds the root prison. Good night. But no, the killer instinct gets him on out. The flash is there as well. Goku's going to die afterwards as the realm warp. Noguri finds the Q and BRTT falls down. 3 kills instantly on the Damwon side, but Shelly is trying to answer bottom lane.
Rift Herald is going to help keep the gold close, but this means Damwon is right back in it. Roa completed by Nuguri 12 minutes into the game, even though he has died multiple times. You just can't stop him from getting to his gold and items. And even though the Rift Herald charges, is unable to get that second turret. So after all this, we're at a 500 gold difference.
Yep, Canyon is here, but doesn't want to go over to try and challenge for this blue buff. I think it's smart. Don't want to dive into 2 people by yourself, especially not when Shrimp is 2-0-2. So let's have a look at how this all happened. It was the stun not working, you and me, and Featherstorm pretty strong.
Yeah, gotta say Nuclear's played a lot better today than he did in their first day of group stage, dodging that initiation by Pyke, and then that allows Showmaker to make the roam up. Keep in mind that Flamengo went for this play with 2 people and a Rift Herald bottom lane. I think they were trying to get 1 pick and a small fight to actually push Damwon off of the turret. But when you miss that engage, you open yourselves up for the dive, and that's when Flamengo's aggression actually works against them. Things would have gone much better had they actually not attempted anything in the top lane.
Sort of misjudging the safety of the outer turret there as well. Of course, Damwon not too worried about it, especially with the counter-engage opportunities that they have. I really like that you and me and Featherstorm can be used so that you've got untargetability on your entire bottom lane for a couple of seconds. Be very valuable as Canyon finds the Q onto Goku. He flashes, Featherstorms as well. Canyon quite low as Showmaker wants to pick up the turret aggro. Canyon has turret aggro on an inner turret when the outer is still alive, but isn't going to be punished for it at the moment. The punishment looking to happen on the top side with Featherstorm back available again from Nuclear.
Flamengo really want to try and make plays happen between Shrimp and Lucy. They're just roaming around together. If they can get kills with this, it's just that gold engine from Pyke to everyone available, and it would be a 3v2 dive, but they have to pull it off just right.
Yep. Just keep your eye on that cooldown.
Oh, 4-man dive maybe.
Button. When's Nuclear going to use it? There's the final chapter, multi-rooted. But is Lucy going to be able to survive? The answer is no, but can they get enough of the kills? Ooh. It is 2 going over to the cat on a book, and a 2 for 2 is not what you want if you're Flamengo.
And Yuumi actually scales really well with gold, which is the frustrating part here for Flamengo. Those items can come in very effectively. It will open up the turret, but that's going to be traded by Damwon. So every time Flamengo makes a move, Damwon is just pesky. It's so hard to actually get the kills on them. They trade 2 back, and that means the pressure is elsewhere for Damwon.
Yeah, exactly. And also you've got Noguri pushing on the bottom side of the map. They were able to take the outer turret in the mid lane. It's like when Flamengo make a move, Damwon are defending that move relatively well, but also trying to take everything that they can elsewhere as well. As we're going to have a look at this dive, have a look at the minimap as well, have a glance down, see what's going wrong here.
Yep. Pay attention to Pyke. Little late on his hook. You'd want to try and force the Xayah ult as early as possible because they were taking turret aggro before they even got the ult. If they could have led with the hook before taking turret aggro, there's a high chance that gank would have been more effective.
Showmaker not going to find the chains there onto Goku, but Goku's being punished here in this lane. Being able to keep up within 20 CS is certainly admirable. You can see Showmaker is hungry for blood. 0-0-1 really hasn't had that much of an impact so far on this game as Showmaker. And after his first game out here today on the Akali, I think we're happy to give him a little bit of a rest. He was pretty impressive, but still wanting him to perform up to the standard that Damwon need from their solo lanes. This is a team that's super binary with how they work, but they do it so well that it's very difficult to contend with.
Exactly. It's like they play through their solo lanes so effectively, and both of them are such huge threats that many teams would then think, okay, let's attack Nuclear in their weakness, but if you do that, then their solo lanes go crazy. So I actually like Flamengo's approach a little bit more here, where they have directly attacked Noguri for where his weakness is, as you mentioned earlier. So many isolated deaths, even in the LCK, and that gives you a fighting chance against Damwon if you're able to get some kills on Nuguri early.
Lucy just swimming through the river. Nice blade surge there from Robo to get him back towards his turret.
Ooh.
Vanguard's edge avoided though. As Noguri comes down, that's a very easy rune prison and they want more. Lucy has to dive out of the way. And Damwon are now just picking up whatever they want. They've hit their stride, they've hit their items, and now they're gonna hit this outer turret and get some more global gold in their back pockets.
Wow, because when we talk about skill shots, it's always a combination of the person throwing and the person dodging. But there's been 2 dodges this game that have seemed just very rare to me. The Pike in the bottom lane where he's point blank and missed, and we just saw a point blank Aurelia ultimate missed.
Yeah.
So
I believe it was
missed
you and
and
Mead.
dodged.
It was you and Mead.
Yeah.
Is what I'd call it.
It's both, I think, Flamengo pushing a little bit too hard, but I also want to credit Damwon for these really small sidesteps in dodging spells like the Aurelia ult.
Yeah, a bit of finesse coming through here, but it's not all over yet. 6-6 is the kill score. 1,000 gold is basically nothing. As we're looking at 17.5 minutes into this game, Baron going to be rearing his head relatively soon. 2 minutes before he's going to be there. And a Trinity Force almost done for Robo. The Aurelia in a side lane is what Flamengo want to be playing through, and BRTT is still building towards items. The Rage Blade now done. Nuclear going towards second item Infinity Edge. I always like this if you want to go for 2-item builds, and Noguri already has his. We've already got the Luden's Echo onto Showmaker, as now Canyon dives on forward again, and once again is unable to steal away the red. Powering Projectile gets himself the 20% slow, but you can feel how much worse that is now.
Yeah, definitely not the same as it was.
It's like barely even
Walk
a slow.
right away
I'm
from
used to seeing Prowling Projectile land and saying, oh, well, he's dead.
Yep.
Not how that works. Just able to do a bit of damage and able to do a bit more damage than it really should, considering the fact that he's got a Lost Chapter and Final Chapter both being prepared.
He's probably going the Luden's build, which is usually what Yuumi can only accomplish when paired up with a Garen or maybe a Mundo.
You're going to say solo lane.
The solo lane Yuumi. Yeah.
Yes, you need the extra gold from the solo lane as the Yuumi. Oh dear.
Yeah. But he's getting there.
Do you like the Mundo or the Garen? Which is your favorite?
I haven't seen enough Mundo yet.
Yeah,
So-
I heard someone talking about it, and I was like, theoretically, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so I have this theory. I'm sure you saw the front page Reddit thread about Reckless spamming a bunch of mages and non-marksman bot lane.
Yep.
Yes, that's because they're in the same region as G2 and they've proven that to be very successful. But also, I think Fnatic's in the same group as RNG, who traditionally has just dominated marksman
Yeah,
v
if
marksman.
you could dodge marksman v marksman, that sounds pretty good. If you're
So I feel like that's going to be what Fnatic ends up doing against RNG. And Reckless was the one who was actually playing Mundo in Challenger solo queue with the Yuumi. In theory, it should execute similar to the Garen Yuumi in terms of just like moving around and helping him. I feel like the Garen is actually better because he has a little bit more move speed, more execute damage, but I could see the Mundo working if they actually want like multiple options for melee Yuumi that they want to have ready.
And I think we're seeing a little bit of a sign of what Damwon's composition can do, because Safeguard and You and Me means that you can have 2 people dive on top of Noguri at a whim. Showmaker and Nuclear can stay relatively safe considering their buttons. Shrimp not so much as he flashes away from the chains, but gets the Ignite to come out there. That was Barrels.
And also we're going to see more stuff like that where Yumi's actually just running around on Showmaker.
Yeah, there's the kick. Lucy able to get out of there, but there's another Ignite, and Showmaker grabs it with that one. Damwon, pretty easy pick off there onto the Pike.
Yeah, so that was actually a great example of LeBlanc being an assassin, but also a poke mage.
Yeah.
And when you attach the Yuumi to the LeBlanc, that poke just gets boosted, A, from the adaptive stats, but B, because Yuumi can also just land a Prowling Projectile while you jump in. And unless Flamengo is willing to commit teleports and do all-ins, we're going to see more of that type of stuff, which is just untenable long-term for Flamengo, as Damwon is triple clouded with a poke comp.
Yeah, and they also had about a bajillion different maneuverability options. Bajillion being, I think, the accurate representation of how many there were. And now with triple Cloud Drake, they are going to be booking it wherever they want to go. Damwon certainly feeling like they're back in control. It was once again shaky in the early stages, but it's so hard, right, to bring the right level of hype when I've seen Noguri fall behind on Rise so many times. He was like 0-3, and then had one play and the game was over.
Nagari's 0-2. This has never happened before.
Yeah, I know, right?
Except it has.
And it almost feels unfair to have that. I feel like I should have just erased that knowledge so that we could give him the right amount of hype for clawing things back. But it's just how his rise seems to work. He just plays at the same level of aggression, and eventually he's just too strong. And now, fully stacked Rod of Ages, Seraph's Embrace already done. Even Nuclear feeling pretty comfortable as all of the skill shots are avoided, just narrowly.
Yeah, one thing it did do is it did give Robo a bit of a head start in the game for Zarelli, who, if he does find a team fight, could be good. Need those pike hooks to land, though, if they want any type of strong initiation. Otherwise, you're going to see more and more of that poke coming through. It was free poke there for Showmaker. Of course, it was onto a guy who just doesn't take damage in pike because of his gray health, but
still looked
you get the
impressive.
idea. It looked like it was damage.
Yeah, it was a big chunk of unnecessary damage. As now he's going to dive in, tries to make that necessary, and he does it. The electrocute proc to finish off the pike. And that's the caster curse that you never want to have, Jeff.
It looks like you could do damage to pike, but really you can't. Oh, okay, you can. Actually, you can just kill him.
Is that your silly person voice?
Yeah.
Can we just use your silly person voice? I liked it.
That's how.
Endearing. Blade Caller under 2. All right.
That's how other people hear me sometimes.
Not me, Jet. I only hear intelligence. As Showmaker can't find the chain, but now that he's paired with the Yuumi, it feels like he's been unlocked, and inner turret now is just going to get taken down. Looks like Flamengo, not a lot of options as far as that. And look at the dive forward. Shrimp is going to go golden, but do Flamengo have an answer? The answer's no so far as Showmaker throws his way forward. Canyon gets the kick onto BRTT to answer the ultimate he threw, and now Showmaker dives in again. Another kill onto the bike. He was just out of the death chamber, and then goes straight back in. Nagari secures the one onto Goku, and now Damwon, they could do anything. They've decided that it's Baron time as Robo, oh no, the Realm Warp right on top of an Aurelia. That's going to be that. BRTT has respawned, so no ace, but still Damwon moved to the Baron.
They just make it look so easy. This game is close. It was close, but they just
Are you seeing my frustration?
Yes! I too share this frustration. Showmaker is completely taking over, but it's because the Damwon team is doing this together. They just all dive in for this one bit of burst, and then they completely push Flamengo onto their back foot, because look at this. It's like the whole team just moves back at once as Flamengo's looking for the engage, and then the whole team moves forward at the same time. It helps when a champ can attach himself on another champ to make it look like you're more coordinated, but I swear they do this with multiple champions.
Well, they do. I mean, they've got Safeguard. I mean, Lee Sin can do it as well.
You were
It's
just talking about
worse, you and me.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So Beryl and Canyon just bouncing around between the 3 carries of Damwon Gaming, and that, I feel like this composition almost epitomizes what this team is. And when Nuclear is performing the way he is, I mean, he's still doing damage in these fights, unlike the liability, you could almost say. He was in that first day of play. It's a very, very scary proposition. Flamengo now are relegated to underneath their inhibitor turrets. Nagari, of course, is on the bottom side of the map, just farming things out. And it's 404, Showmaker not found. He's invisible, just poking forward. Try and challenge Flamengo.
Even though it's a low success rate, I really want to see Flamengo use a flank ward and teleport in when they try and siege.
All right, can I see that in circles?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Right there would be a good ward.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they moved to the other side, so I'd love it if they could get a ward there, but it just can't happen.
Yeah, well, we'll see whether Pike can stay invisible for long enough to maybe sneak one in. But at the moment, there's no longer going to be an inner turret, and Flamengo just look like they've ran out of answers. This is the problem, right?
Yeah.
When you're getting pressured this much, you need room to breathe to formulate your theoretical plan. But that Bone Skewer landed, the Zoomies were there, and Canyon's now back at full health again as Showmaker dives in. Goku almost gets chunked out, as now the Shape Splitter is in, but it's not going to actually manage to distract this Damwon roster. Safeguard, you and me. Inhibitor turret's dead, base broken, Inhibitor going to follow, and all the while Nagari is on the bottom side of the map. It's one of those games that feels like Damwon has 7 players against 3 on Flamengo's side.
Yeah, Flamengo just can't 5v5 straight into Damwon. They have to flank, and they definitely can't play a split-up game. We just saw Showmaker use about 3 buttons to take the other solo laner completely out of the fight. And that will just keep happening until the Nexus falls. If Flamengo doesn't find a way to get a flank ward in. I really wish right there as Damwon had pulled back from top lane, if Flamengo would have just gotten a ward for TP somewhere behind them to try and get a fight in. They have one in the tri-brush, and I feel like they have to go if they want any chance. Right there. Well, that's not... It's close enough. They can teleport on that one.
Yeah, any sort of flank. In fact, I just want to see any sort of engage to come out here, because as this game goes on, they're just going to fall further and further behind. You can see 8,000 gold is now the lead for Damwon. Noguri still just playing with distance on the bottom side of the map, landing these pot shot cues, as now Lucy might be able to find a bone skewer here. Channels, flips back Canyon, but not even going to find the snare. It's not going to be enough as Showmaker dives on in. Oh, little bit of a miscommunication, but a zoning last chapter. The final chapter, sorry, is possibly going to be enough there as everything is crumbling. It's the structures that just cannot withstand.
It's too late, but the teleport's coming.
Yep, it is, as Lucy's already dead. 2 inhibitors are going to die, as well as Robo booking it into the back line. But so far, everyone's just been destroyed. Pop Blossom comes forward, but it's answered with the Feather Storm, and Nuclear is just so safe. Another Vanguard's Edge flies to Narnia, as Ejim would say, and now Nexus turrets should be the focus. BRTT is just bopped on the skull. He's going to be taken down, and now Noguri's fighting people on their own fountain. Goes golden, does Robo, but he's going to have to watch as his base is in shambles. Once again, Nuclear is going to get taken down, and another Realm Warp to get them to the fountain. Damwon go undefeated in the play-ins group stage.
Damwon Gaming, the only undefeated team of 12 that entered the play-in stage, secured their #1 seed in this group, and they just look good doing it.
Yeah, the inevitability that they're showing us is just terrifying. If I'm a groups team, I'm looking at this squad being like, please, for the love of God, don't put them in my group.
Yep.
Because they already have the momentum. That's the scary part. That's what when I looked at the LCK's positions in Worlds, I mean, a lot of people were thinking, oh, this is going to be really rough. But I want the challenge to start as soon as possible. I want these teams to be challenged, to be warmed up, to be ready as quickly as they can, because we can't have complacency after what we saw in 2018. We need to have the LCK come out and really smash people, to really put that respect back in, and also to really make sure that they have the right respect for the rest of the world.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of opportunity to talk about this later on in the World Championship, but to me, the 2018 LCK performance is going to look nothing like the 2019 LCK performance, mostly because every single player is different.
Hey, there's one, all right? And he's
in
playing
NA.
for you guys.
He's Core JJ. He's the only LCK representative from last year who's starting at Worlds this year, and it's, I think, because the LCK was reborn in many ways this year. When you look at the youth of Damwon Gaming, the 5th youngest team at the World Championship, Griffin, the 2nd youngest team at the World Championship, and then the oldest Korean team has Faker, so you're fine.
Yeah,
right?
He's the only one that's really stayed along with the roster as well. So then picking up a whole bunch of extra players as well. So yeah, I'm with you. And I'm glad that we've got new blood that we're bringing in to the LCK, because I felt like even when we had our representatives last year, it didn't feel like it was necessarily the right ones. The fact that Griffin so narrowly missed their opportunity, now are going to be here to try and flex their muscles, is really important. Of course, a lot of people may have counted them out, but Damwon already starting off looking strong.
Yeah, and I think Damwon is a combination of what you used to expect from Korean League of Legends and what has changed in Korean League of Legends. Because their early game is still a little bit of absorbing, right? They're just saying, we don't want to fall too far behind, but as soon as they hit their items, they're fast. The 2nd fastest average game time in the LCK, even though they only had an average early game. And even in the play-in stage, which has increased in skill, we've seen clearly this year that has happened. They're playing that way, and they look much better today than they did 2 days ago.
Yeah, the thing that made SKT look so dominant when they were on their dream run throughout the few years in the past now is that inevitability and that feeling like they just knew exactly what they needed to do and at exactly which time to do it as well. It meant that you could see these first bloods. You've got, that Dumbledore play where he picks up the kill onto Faker in the mid lane, but that never made you feel like they weren't going to win anyway, right? And that was the feeling that I was having in this game, and that's what I wanted to see out of Damwon here in the play-ins.
Yeah, they've made their statement, and now every team can just hope they don't get drawn against them in the knockout stage.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But to get more insight on Damwon's win, let's head over to Law and their mid laner, Showmaker.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Showmaker, for joining me. You took first seed in the group. I guess that was expected from you guys, but how does it feel to advance to the knockout stage, knowing that every potential opponent is afraid of you right now?
우선 1위로 다음 이제 순서로 올라가신 거 너무 축하드립니다. 이제 많은 팀들이 다 약간 다음을 두려워하고 있는데 소감 한마디 부탁드려요.
근데 많은 팀들이 저희를 두려워하는 만큼 그렇게 뭐 좋은 모습은 못 보여드렸던 것 같고 그냥 운이 좋아서 다 이겼던 것 같아요.
I don't think we showed a really good performance enough so that everybody's afraid of us. So I think we just got lucky.
Okay, why not? I was talking to your ADC earlier, and he mentioned something about you not being prepped enough. I also know that your coach couldn't come to the playing stage because of health issues. So can you explain why and how it affected your preparation coming here?
제가 전에 원딜 뉴클리어 선수랑 얘기를 했는데요. 이제 연습이 잘 안 됐다고 했고 또 특히 이번에 감독님이 못 오셨어요. 이제 어떤 준비 그런 모든 것에 대해서 한마디 부탁드려요.
감독님이 못 오시게 된 거는 굉장히 아쉽지만 그래도 저희 코치님들이 계셔가지고 그나마 나은 것 같고 연습은 그냥 앞으로 잘하면 될 거라고 믿고 있어요.
So yeah, our head coach couldn't come, so we're sad about that. But the other coaches are here, so we're okay, and we're going to prepare better for the next stage.
That's really good to hear, I guess. Now for the rest of the competition, you were mentioning that you haven't played at your full potential here. Don't you think it's going to become an issue facing other teams to make such mistakes?
지금까지 담원의 모든 잠재력을 보여주지 못하셨는데요. 이제 다음 라운드 때 약간 그런 게 문제가 될 거라고 생각하시나요?
저희는 지금 저희가 그렇게 잘하고 있진 않은데 그래도 이런 경기력보다는 더 나은 경기력을 보여드리려고 더 열심히 연습할 거고 그렇게 연습해서 다음 스테이지까지는 무조건 뚫을 수 있을 것 같아요.
So it's true that we are not able to show you our real performance, but I'm confident that we can prepare well and go through the next stage.
All right, well, thank you very much for the interview. We'll see you next week then. Thank you, Hajin, for the translation. And we're going to take a break, and coming back, we will see the fourth game of the day.
Try and stay in range of the minions, Nogari, as he does manage to get the snare, but the flash forward, the knock up, and Nogari's going to go down. Yeah, back at it again as they're dive bombing around. Canyon gets the flash eventually, but there's the Vanguard's edge, and there's BRTTs. Shrimp is going to go golden, but do Flamengo have an answer? The answer's no so far as Showmaker throws his way forward. Canyon gets a kick onto BRTT to answer the ultimate he threw, and now Showmaker dives in again. Another kill onto the Pike, who's just out of the death chamber. Once again, Nuclear is going to get taken down, and another Realm Warp to get them to the fountain. Damwon go undefeated in the play-ins group stage.
And welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk ahead of Loki versus Mega. I'm Quickshot, joined by Ejim, and I would like to welcome European legend and 2018 World Championship runner-up Soaz to join me. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you.
It's very exciting for you to join us. Soaz will be helping us draw the the play-ins knockouts a little later today. Before we get to the game, how are you feeling? What is it like being back at the World Championship, this time on our side of the camera?
It's a bit of a first for me, especially here. Usually it's a bit more on the analyst desk type of things, but interesting, yeah.
And are you enjoying watching the games and seeing it in the LEC studio as well? World Championship back on European soil?
Yeah, it's always cool regardless to watch the games and watch the high quality games that World provide.
There was a little
This guy,
this
2 minutes in.
But more seriously, so as obviously it's been a bumpy 2019. So what is it like emotionally for you, knowing we're looking ahead? You can see Splice, Fnatic, G2. They're representing Europe on the world stage.
I mean, obviously it's our best team, so you have to support them. I think it's too early to say like, oh, it's gonna be for them. But I'm hopeful that at least for G2, maybe I don't think that Fnatic might do a bit better, but we will see. Like I think Worlds depends a lot on scrims and team atmosphere overall. So as long as they keep having a good atmosphere, they can always bounce back from bad days, which is, in my opinion, the most important thing to do when you play Worlds.
It's actually really important insight, knowing you were on the biggest stage last year. We'll be asking Law to keep an eye on the team atmosphere. Let's turn our attention to the do-or-die match for the LST champions. They look to bounce back after their loss to Hong Kong Attitude. Now, with low-key win, they will secure themselves and Hong Kong Attitude a spot in the knockout stage. Low-key, they're looking to figure things out. We expected quite a lot of them coming into the group, and I want to see them deliver in this game and the one at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. We obviously haven't seen them play here today, but in their last couple of games, they've had a really good performance. You're seeing it right now. Massive Tristana in the mid lane. We've kind of seen it all over the map, but yeah, they were coming in as red-hot favorites for a couple of analysts, even over the first seed, and now against Mega will be an interesting game, I think.
Now, Soaz, how does it feel if you're a player on the stage and you know you have to win this to go through, and other teams are watching, and if one team wins, they're knocked out? What is the emotional burden like?
Especially in best of ones. I mean, I've played play-ins like 2 times, I think. And I mean, luckily for us, it went pretty well. But best of ones are very nerve-wracking. And also when, for us, we didn't know that much of the teams that we are playing against. So it's even more stressful, that I would say, than group stage.
What sort of impact does that have on your play? Do you forget all that stress when you load up and it's picks and bans and you just get into game mode?
It's the same as any like LEC games or anything like this. It's stressful maybe like once you're about to go on stage, but as soon as the game starts, maybe you need like a few minutes, like 2-3 minutes, and then you warm up and yeah.
Let's turn our attention back to the teams. And Ejim, talk to me a little bit about Mega. They threw away another game against HKA.
Yes.
More mistakes momentarily.
And it's just like the lack of transition, right? Which a super punishing and super frustrating way to lose games. And the thing I want to highlight, more to your point as well, so is like
actually missing
best of ones. They're super disastrous, missing everything. But to where these teams come from, right? Like coming into play-ins, not a lot of people may know who Mega are, despite they've played these types of tournaments for a very long time. But they have to play through the Thai League to then qualify into the LST, play 6 weeks of that to then come to play-ins, and all they have is 4 games. They have advantages in the early game, right? They've played 3 of them so far. If they lose this single game against Loki here, then they're straight up out of the tournament, and that's a big weight to bear on your shoulders for one best of one.
Yeah, it absolutely is. When you've got the weight of the entire region behind you and you're the only representative. One last question, if we step just away for a moment and say, Soaz, what's it like in terms of these teams coming to EU, coming to Scrim? You know, lots of names and players and squads that you may not be familiar with. They may not get time to Scrim G2 or DAM1 or SKT. So, you know, what sort of an uphill battle is it for these new young teams and players?
For those teams, I feel like it's more about finding their identity coming into the World's Games, and knowing all the way that they want to play really. So I think that's the biggest factor, and then just be confident with their play. Regardless of like the scrims that they get really, yeah.
And obviously to hit the skill shots as well. Very Soaz, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again a little later today. There's so much on the line here in Game 4 as Mega fight for their tournament lives.
And thank you very much, Quickthought. We're already ready for Champions League. We're in the thick of it. Renekton already banned away. Greg is going to follow. I am Dracos. This is Christy Enterfryson joining me. And Christy, we wanted to hit this before we got into the Champions League, but last Champions League was very odd. We saw Pantheon get through, Akali was picked early, Xayah didn't exist for half the Champions League. So what do we actually expect going into the rematch today?
Dracos, it's weird again, because Qiyana's open, Pantheon's open, Yumi's open. All these power picks that we've seen so far throughout the tournament are going to be left up, and Mega banning away the Pantheon. It was G4 that piloted it in the last time these two teams faced off. But interesting to see the Akali presence so high up here, because Yumi was a pick that Pop played in the LST and it was super powerful. Duel and Pop love to go for that Ezreal Yumi. So I'd really like to see them actually go back towards that, but maybe even prioritize that Qiyana for themselves as well.
Curious though, I do like the Akali being locked in for Artifact. He has been, I think, the strongest performer individually on the low-key esports lineup. Might even be arguable that he's been the strongest individual in the group as a whole, even if the team performance hasn't quite ramped up in the same way. But Xayah and Rakan are both open. Pretty easy lock-in for Mega if they do want to secure the bot lane, but it will not be the Yumi that you were kind of hoping for.
It is interesting because Mega were always a team with a very strong bot lane in the summer LST split, but they rarely ever played through them. It was just leave Duel and Daewoo and Pop to their own devices. They were going to win lane by themselves. But with the Xayah and Rakan, while that is a very strong 2 versus 2, it makes you think that Lloyd might get involved in the action down there. They do have a lot of setup to try and make plays around bot lane.
Have to see how low-key want to respond though. Do they want to take the Yumi themselves? It's a cornucopia of power picks left up and available.
Where's the Qiyana?
Actually really surprising not to see. You have to wonder if there's some individual comfort questions for the respective players on the stage. Have they forgotten it exists? Could happen. Don't think it's likely, but it's an option. Elise instead will be the lock-in, so pressure on DNK to be a big force in the early game here. Luckily, Elise very much empowers him to do so.
And I think having a strong early game jungler is going to be very important for Loki in this game, because the last time these two teams faced off, the solo lanes actually went pretty rough for them early on, especially. G4 was able to pick up a solo kill. We all remember Rocky and his split pushing later on into the game, so if they're able to pair that up with strong solo laners, the Akali can do that once she hits level 6, maybe something else powerful in the top lane like a Renekton. You can look to play through those lanes and turn around what went poorly for them the last time they faced off.
And I love seeing G4 with the LeBlanc in his hands. A lot of potential to make big plays here once he gets a few items under his belt. We saw in the previous game what Showmaker could do on the champion. Wonder if we'll see a similar performance from G4 today as we enter the second ban phase. But I'm really curious. I think the big question on my mind, Ender, looking at Loki Esports, is what does Hani opt to play? How is he going to be utilized here? Because honestly, it felt like a bit of a weak point. You pointed out the Camille split pushing. Rocky is, of course, you know, a world-class top laner, but you cannot be that weak point for your team.
Well, what probably ends up happening here is Loki have to blind pick the top laner, because right now they've already shown the Akali, which I personally think is going to go into the hands of Artifact. He looked so good on that last time, but they maybe want to dodge that LeBlanc matchup up against G4. And Mega, because they already have their mid laner locked in here, they should be looking for their jungle pick now. Get something for Lloyd. There have been a couple early game bans thrown his way, so he's going to have to dip a little bit deeper into the pool with the Gragas banned away as well. And it's going to be hard to find something that actually can go blow for blow against, at least in the early game.
And honestly, saving counterpick for Rocky just feels so difficult for Loki to respond to. But interesting that Mega in their second ban phase, they have to ban the Ashe and the Tristana. It does now get locked in, so looking to match fire with fire here in the early game.
I do like this a lot, especially Xin Zhao next to LeBlanc. Talk about a power mid lane 2v2 right there. Even if Akali goes into the mid lane, we consider her more of a safe option. It is going to be very hard to survive against those ganks. I like this blind Kled, though, for Hani up in the top lane. The Renekton is one we mentioned earlier, but of course that got banned away much earlier on into the draft. It won't be the Gangplank that he went into a losing matchup against last time. And now I wonder, does Rocky go for something hard split push again? Like a Jax, I think, is a very, very strong matchup you can take into the Kled and outscale heavily into a side lane.
See if that's a matchup he's comfortable with. Rocky, of course, a lot of his comfort picks still up and available. The Camille one that worked so well last time. Why not run it back?
Sure.
And Ender, we got two comps that in the past I would have identified pretty heavily as kind of 1-3-1 action, depending on how they want to play this out. Is this game just entirely about the early game now with junglers locked in like the Elise and the Xin and side laners like the Camille, the Kled, you've got a Kali LeBlanc mid lane. Is it just early game?
I think early game is going to be super, super important here, specifically when I compare scaling across these lanes. Bottom lane, you consider Lucian Thresh probably stronger in that 2v2 blow for blow up against Daywall and Pop, but the scaling on that side definitely goes towards Mega, so I feel like DNK maybe needs to get involved around this bottom lane and really just stop Lloyd from using this Xin Zhao to just run away, because I think ganks are so much easier to execute on this Xin Zhao jungle pick, and Lloyd will definitely be trying to get in the face of Loki early on.
And ease of execution, always something that you have to consider on this stage. A lot of pressure on both of these teams, and more so on Mega. Loki, the potential to lock themselves and HKA in the top 2 spots in this group, and on the opposite side, Mega playing for their tournament lives. So when push comes to shove, they go back to some of the picks that have been the most successful for them so far. The Camille in the hands of Rocky, inevitably have to put my eyes on that one.
And I really like seeing them go back to that, because I felt like the last time these two teams faced off, it was all about Rocky's Camille in a side lane and playing that split push style to just create so much pressure on the rest of the map, and I think that they can look to execute that again. The only engage tool they have to worry about on the other side is going to be that Kled. So assuming this is an even game state and we get towards that 30-minute mark, the last time these teams faced off, it went late. It went to 40 minutes. It's going to be about, can Rocky make something happen before Hani groups with the team and forces a fight?
Big question coming into the early game. Will we make it late? Will it be another 30, 40-minute game, or is this one going to be just as explosive as the draft might indicate? Low-key versus Mega. Kicking off. All right, I'm going to be honest. Halo Blade Xin Zhao seems utterly disgusting.
Dude, I'm into it. I'm into it, Dracos. Yeah, you talk about early game power. You get that fast Dragon Strike to get the knock-up. Lloyd is going to be able to make ganks happen very, very well in this early game. And I think you brought up, is early game just the most important thing? And I think we're getting a little bit of a suggestion that it is, because both mid laners, even though they do have champs that could go side lanes later on, they're both rocking the Ignite. Mid lane 2v2 is going to be really, really important. And specifically when we look at this matchup between mid laners and junglers, I'm looking for Mega to make things happen pre-level 6. Post-level 6, though, I think that's where Artifact unlocks a whole lot more power in the fight, in the 2v2, and that's where Loki could probably turn it around.
And I like the early move coming in from G4 here. Looks a little bit risky, but is able to use the distortion to move in and out of the enemy jungle and lay down a bit of vision, making sure that they can track the Elise early on and shut down some of the playmaking the DNK would like to bring to the table. Of course, bot lane is going to opt to Elise, which will put Mega's bot lane behind a little bit unless they want to stay as well. But it looks like they are going to lane and going to let Xin solo blue on his own.
So the sort of scouting phase before minions spawned is going very well for Mega already, because Lloyd is going to be hiding where he's starting on the map. Of course, they have that deep ward on DNK's blue buff, so Mega know that it is a bot side start with a leash coming through from the jungler, whereas Loki don't necessarily. And Lloyd, because he's starting on blue, it's a little interesting because usually Xin Zhao's might look for a level 2 or a level 3 gank. This indicates to me he might be going a little bit slower inside of his jungle early on, but once he does hit that level 3 and picks up a red buff, that's where he's going to unlock, and that's where he's going to be trying to track DNK, because now he knows DNK went straight buff to buff. Red buff into his blue buff on the top side of the map. This actually indicates that DNK is going to be coming downwards and not actually looking for a play up top lane. When you do take these camps, you'll notice that you get the red, you get the blue buff, and then all of a sudden, you want to walk straight on down. You set up this easy path and then can influence the bottom lane a little bit later on into the map around the 4-minute mark.
But for now, 4 minutes of the expectation there, but we're going to see if Xin gets some successful action off.
Ooh.
Well, DNK not going bot side quite yet. There is a clever ward placed by Rocky. I think just doing his due diligence as he starts to push forward. May have to back off the wave here. Bear Trap on a rope is going to connect. Rocky now pulled back, holding off, waiting. Have to wonder what he's skilled. Level 2 is going to be the hookshot wall dive. Really just taking his time here. The cocoon goes very wide. I guess trying to predict a flash. They're going to go in. They're going to get the kill anyway. Works out for low-key in the end.
So the thing I missed in DNK's jungle pathing was he included 2 of the small wolves in his path, because usually if you just take red, blue, and grump, you won't hit level 3. If you include the 2 small wolves, you do. So this is a confusing path that I don't think Rocky expected, because even though he saw Elise on that blue buff, he didn't think that DNK was going to be ticking over to level 3 quite so fast and have that opportunity for the gank.
And look, we are in a very explosive early game focused matchup for the jungler, so getting that early kill is going to be a huge advantage. But of course, Elise has to back to spend that gold. The additional XP not going to mean too much quite yet, and it does mean that Lloyd manages to secure the scuttle, basically uncontested. And as you look back, I was waiting for hookshot wall dive, but Rocky only level 2, doesn't look like he skilled it. It makes a pretty easy play despite the missed cocoon.
Yeah, he tried to juke back right there, still holding on to the flash the entire time. Never actually going to use that one. I have to question that decision coming through from him. Of course, holding on to it does mean there is more playmaking opportunity if Lloyd does come into the top lane, but that just doesn't seem to be the case now, as DNK is hard sticking around this top side of the map, while Lloyd has now picked up both Scuttle Crabs, and with a bot lane that's pushing out from low-key, can find a gank.
Lloyd fishing for the setup. Should be pretty easy, but Venus has the ability to stop this with the Flay. The Lantern is there as well. Lucian has the dash. Should be good to set up, and now they're going to try to turn it. They baited them in. Celebrity now has to run for his life. The Lantern pulls him back, but right into Lloyd. Venus now in trouble. The heal comes out. Wind becomes lightning, and Venus heads straight towards the grave.
Well-timed gank right there with a little bit of baiting from Mega's bottom lane. Venus thought it was just going to be that isolated 2v2, but it gets turned straight around. And now Lloyd still sticking around. You do see that DNK is pathing towards this bottom side of the map, so if the dive takes too long, it could get turned right around.
I love it. I love it. Go, run it back. Red buff, oh, good connection onto the recon, but he doesn't take target out yet, and that means Lloyd is going to be in trouble. He goes up, comes down. DNK grabs the kill. Perfect read from the side of low-key.
That's just too greedy, though, from Lloyd, because he knows what DNK's path was. He had the vision after that top lane gank. It seems so clear that DNK would have to come back down towards this bottom side of the map, so maybe Mega, in these high-pressure moments where losing this game means they are out of contention for moving on here at the World's Tournament, they just try to greed for too much, and now he's facing down a 2-0 Elise.
And as terrifying as that is, there is still good news, but we'll hold that thought as we look back on this play, and you can see low-key think that they've gotten the engage of a lifetime as they try to grab this one here.
Yeah, but then, of course, there's nowhere for Venus to go. He also loses Aftershock. That's a really big deal because he committed with the hook in first. His Aftershock basically got him nothing. There were no resistances, or there were no damage coming down when those resistances were primed. And then you see Lloyd pathing on in. They could have just stuck around for a turret plate. Instead, Pop and Day will have to abandon Lloyd because they're split up and there's no flash on the Zinjao.
And at that point, Pop's just very glad that he didn't try to throw out a Gleaming Quill or anything before that to take tower aggro's. He gets locked up under the tower, and DNK really proving himself on the Elise jungle, a champion that I've had mixed feelings about in the play-in stage so far. Very execution heavy often in the early game, but DNK is executing and is making a difference. But there is, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, Christy, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little concerned for Hani on the top side. Not only because Lloyd is walking up there, thirsting after some Kled, but because Rocky is very, very far ahead in CS. That's a 20 CS discrepancy, despite a successful assist in the early game for Hani. He's getting smashed in the 1v1. Good news is DNK is on the way, but Lloyd, I think, is going to spot him out as he walks in the lane. He's going to walk away the second he sees the spider, but it's going to make it that much harder for Hani to farm up comfortably under tower.
I really like the defensive pathing, though, from DNK, realizing when dives are possible. Level 6 on Artifact.
Waiting, trying to set up the passive, get a bit more damage. Shuriken flip, gonna take him out. LeBlanc maybe gonna look for the burst. Artifact is forced to flash away. Artifact needs to be careful. The second dash, what is he doing? Why did he go back in? In the end, now goes back up. Rocky comes in. DNK now in trouble. Low key. Bit of a miserable play there. DNK running for his life. That's gonna be it. The tack sweep comes out. The shutdown goes in, but that was a catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean, because it starts off, you know, you think Artifact has the jump on him. Hani's just gonna be a bully right there. Go farm, Hani. Hani, you're down 20 CS. You're actually losing here. Please go farm.
He's going in. There's no mana. He wants the remount. He's got the ult. You might not have seen it, but Hani did enter. He now wants to go in, but Zin on the way. He's denied the back. He's remounted.
No.
Run, little Chocobo, run. Oh, it's not going to happen, Hani. He's going to make it out. All right, he's getting away.
But now Hani's going to get denied even more because, in theory, Lloyd could run up topside, look for a gank. Rocky doesn't have TP, so without mana, probably just has to go back to base. But now, because Hani stayed for so long, he'll have to go home again. Now, importantly in this fight, Artifact had not recalled yet. So there's a Doran shield for the Akali. There's a lost chapter for G4. Still, it starts off great for low-key. You know, they get all the damage, but then Artifact goes to the kill steal instead of just ulting away, where maybe he could have survived. And then with Rocky having that priority in the top lane, can roam down quite easily and eventually chase down DNK for the shutdown, which is going to be even more brutal in this matchup because...
Whoa, hold that thought! Dayo's dead, so's someone else. Welcome back.
It's a 1-for-1.
Celebrity going down. Looks like Dayo traded in the end for Venus, so a positive trade for the side of low-key. Celebrity finding more action on the bottom side.
DNK is just not slowing down. He's got 500 gold over the next closest person in the game, which is G4. That seems absolutely insane.
And that's a 4-1 Elise. That is something you definitely do not want to play against. Now going to be able to move in and take this blue buff, essentially uncontested. No one here to match him, and the clear speed is just going to get higher and higher as he kind of gets ahead of the curve.
Pop able to dodge away from the cocoon here, but there are 3 people from low key, and Duel doesn't want to give up the minions, so he runs straight underneath the tower.
Good play. Trades his life. I think they were hoping to get Pop as well, but Pop is able to make it out of safety. Of course, no real mana for the Lucian to follow up.
It'll still be a trade up, though, for low-key, because all the minions that were denied for Daewoo in the bottom lane, but minions still being denied topside. Hani does have the level lead over Rocky at the moment, but you can see how Rocky takes really good trades up against Hani. The Kled has a lot of power built into his W, where he gets those rapid-fire auto attacks coming through. But Rocky, because of his passive shield, whenever you go for a trade, Rocky's going to be able to block all of that damage and be able to deal out his own, and can definitely scale into quite the monster with the true damage on Q, as well as the Trinity Force, which is just going to be much more impactful in a side lane than the itemization coming through from Kled.
Yeah, you can obviously see how much Kled is struggling in the lane. Double Doran's not something we expect in a matchup that you're doing well in. 20 CS discrepancy remains. Mid lane remaining relatively even. And interestingly, the Xin actually pulling ahead in CS, but obviously the Elise kills going to make sure that she stays ahead of the opposition for now. And kind of just waiting, I think, for the next big play. No one's gone for a Drake yet. The Herald hasn't spawned. We're 20 seconds away from that. Maybe that's where we see the first real point of action.
So we are in a window where I think Loki would really like to fight around their jungler. Obviously, you have 4 kills, but specifically having the completed Runic Echoes is such a big power spike, whereas Lloyd, just with the 2 longswords, if he was able to upgrade that into Warrior, which he does now, that's 40 bonus AD for basically the price of 500 gold. So he's going to be very happy with that, and that should equalize the matchup a whole lot more now because, as you mentioned, CS in favor of Lloyd also means levels in favor of Lloyd, and especially early on, extra levels just give you so much more effective gold in terms of just raw stats and power in fights.
Yeah. Good position for Lloyd, actually, to bring this one back, even if he hasn't had the same impact on the map quite yet. But overall, a very slow, very controlled game when you think about it. That's not true. There's 8 kills. I don't know why I said that. We're in a brief period of slow and controlled before the next period of killing. Lloyd is going to go right in. DNK managed to find the stun. Needs to get out of there, but just barely able to push that. Jumps to the Wolves, flashes away, does manage to make it out. Trades his flash for the Camille, but immediately the engage on the bottom side. Celebrity now stepping back in, but he walks right into the snare. That's not what he needed. Featherstorm comes out, traded for the Culling. Celebrity now trying to retreat. Venus gonna start fishing for some kills. It's Thresh versus the world, but he's gonna grab one. I think he might grab a second. This Thresh is on fire. There's the hook, doesn't even need to connect. It's a bear trap on a rope, and Pop goes down.
Looked like Mega's bot lane was gonna win for a second there, but then Venus shows up. At the same time, teleport coming in through from Hani, rather, and this is going to be big for them, able to pick up multiple plates on the bottom side of the map. At the same time, you see DNK moving down towards the bottom side too, because the obvious return play here is for Lloyd to start up that Herald. Now, seeing this one more time, it is the initiation from Venus, but Pop waiting for it, unable to connect on the knockup there, which I think is going to allow Celebrity to get quite a bit of extra damage to come back. If the knockup does land, that's an instant kill on towards Celebrity. And all the damage on the auto attacks from Venus coming through, and even though the hook does not connect, as you said, Pop gonna go down.
Bear trap on the rope does connect, and that's gonna make Hani's life a little bit easier. But as we're looking at the replay, Herald falls uncontested. Wall tower plating is still up in favor of Lloyd, so that should let Mega get the gold back into their favor, or at least balance it out here in the early game if they're able to use the Herald effectively. Pretty much a 2-plate guarantee.
Was a little surprised not to see DNK start up the Drake there with the lead he'd gotten in the bottom lane, especially after using that TP now too, because the play for Mega now, knowing they have a teleport advantage, only 2 TPs on the map, and Hani's is going to be down, is, well, there's only one objective on the map currently. Herald already was taken, so it's just this Drake. Rocky and the rest of his team should be looking to make a play around this bottom side of the map. But low-key are doing some smart things themselves with a lot of deep vision behind them and vision denial to make sure there are no TP flank wards.
Sadly, though, some pressure is now on low-key to execute here because they're racing against this Rift Herald. Rocky, Lloyd, and G4 all around the top side. Looks like both of them are going to back off to make sure that Rocky gets the solo gold here. Tons of gold in the Camille's back pocket.
Plus 610 there. Can we flip over to the gold? Yep. 2K at 12 minutes. That's insane.
That's a solo queue lead right there. That's not one you frequently see, but of course we saw this last time Rocky picked up the Camille into Hani, and it was just very, very Rocky favored. Now it's on the pressures on the rest of the low key. They are going to break a tower. They're sharing the gold, however, between 3 parties rather than focusing it onto a single member of the team.
And Mega's story through the LST in summer was a little bit interesting too, because for so long it had been the trio of Rocky, Lloyd, and G4 just dominating the region. It's why they were able to go undefeated in spring, but immediately they come into the summer season and get beaten on their very first day, and it was very surprising because for so long those 3 had just been sort of the best in their roles, but all of a sudden they were getting challenged in the jungle, getting challenged in the top lane. And Mega had to sort of re-identify themselves. They brought in Daewoo and Pop as this bottom lane, who were by far the best bot lane in the LST. And all of a sudden, they were playing through bottom lane, which is why I was a little surprised even to see on the play-in stage, it was Rocky stepping up in the heat of these moments. So now clearly getting to the point where they can play through multiple sides of the map. And for Loki especially, the matchup they've wanted to break open has been Rocky versus Hani. It does feel very favored towards the Mega side.
Have to see if Hani can have any impact outside of lane. Of course, only 2 TPs in the game, something I'm not really as used to seeing in an era where very often mid laners and AD carries are both taking TP. But Rocky currently with a TP advantage. Hani, of course, with the ult maybe can look to make a play on the map, but things are only going to get harder as Camille gets more items under her belt. It is a Tiamat Ninja Tabby versus Basic Boots. Maybe can look to make a play on the map, but things are only going to get harder as Camille gets more items under her belt.
That's what we call
Tiamat Ninja Tabby versus Basic Boots. Maybe can look to
still
make a play
playing
on the
inside
map,
the enemy jungle now.
Things are only going to get harder as Camille gets more items under her belt.
That's what we call Mega can find a fight around Rocky at the moment. They're just going to be so strong. Still playing inside the enemy jungle now. That's what we call Mega can find a fight around quite as much as it's going to be on that Camille.
And I'm also just looking at this. We talked a lot about early game for the side of low key, and Lucian Thresh kind of were expected to come out on top of the lane, and you can see it in the CS. But now that Zai and Rakan get to group up, I feel like the safety of Zai just makes this game so much easier for Mega to now play out.
And that's sort of, I really liked Mega's drafts actually throughout a lot of play-ins because they do have very clear win conditions in their games. A couple times it's been Rocky on the split push with some global presence to help him out, with a very safe 3-man core to just clear waves in mid lane. And that's sort of what I feel in this game, where it's largely up to Rocky, and then for him to get stuff done in side lanes while the rest of the team clears waves and controls around the mid lane. And other times it's just been strong team fighting from them. And this time I do feel like it is pretty well balanced between those couple of options. The thing that gets most interesting for me is how do the side lanes actually play out later on, because as I alluded to earlier, low-key don't have a ton of hard engaged tools. It really is just going to be that Kled ult, which is on a long cooldown. So I do think that Rocky can get a ton done in side lanes later on into the game.
And now you can see him grouping up with Lloyd on the top side, already looking to get some work done. Pushing in for tier 2. And we're 15 minutes in, but it just feels like low-key are absolutely and totally willing to concede the top side of the map. Herald obviously already gone, willing to just let this Kled get pushed in over and over again. But DNK has something to say about it. Rocky's just going to walk right out. Pop potentially fishing for an engage, but now you see the mid lane. Daewoo pulls back the threads, but instantly Artifact's going to find the kill. Shuriken flips right back out to safety. Scattered action. You have to wonder what Daewoo was thinking stepping forward there.
And if you remember the last time these teams faced off, it was Rocky on one side and it was Artifact on the other. And it was Artifact on this Akali, even after there's very high priority for him on this champion, showing he can get kills on it here. And that's what low-key are going to do. I think you run around with your Akali, your Elise, your Thresh, and try to find picks with these champions, because especially now with the Gunblade finished, having that slow and extra burst damage makes it a whole lot easier to chase down targets and get those quick solo kills.
And now we're at the point where I feel like in order for the game to break open, someone needs to make a very bold play. Currently, we're seeing a few picks, but not really enough to transition into any greater advantages. That said, as terrifying as Rocky is, low-key, still 2K in the lead. Solo lane's obviously much stronger. Hani, very much a weak point, but as a team, they have more gold collectively, and it should help them out in the fights to come.
And they're going to be coming up on some strong items too now, with some Magic Pen picked up from Artifact, Celebrity, going to be finishing off the Essence Reaver soon as well. But one thing that's been sort of a surprise to me coming into the plans is we saw a lot during the summer split, so many people taking teleport in the mid lane, in the bottom lane, all over the map. And sort of at the same time, it felt like split pushing to win games just wasn't a thing. Every game felt like it was decided either by smashing the other team in the early game or by team fighting around large objectives like the Baron. And I felt like in Plains, it's been a very different story. We've seen the Quins come into play. We've seen picks like the Camille be very present in side lanes and just breaking open those areas of the map. And I can't help but feel that a part of that actually comes down to people just not running TP in other lanes, because a very common play for you to go against split push, just bring 2 people down, and is just bring a couple people down, kill the split pusher, and then force fights, because you can just react super easily on the opposite side of the map by having so many TPs, and that just hasn't been a thing.
I think you're completely right. It's weird, too, when you think back to previous world metas where we've been in the Jace top lane dominance, the AD Kennen top lane dominance. And we do see it in Mega, though. One of the few teams, I think, where they have pretty much split pushed their way into total control of a game. Rocky was that guy. He was the guy taking inhibitors while the rest of the team is trying to figure out if they actually can force a Baron in a 5v4 scenario. And I think eyes now are on him. Pressure continues to build on him, because once again, this is an elimination match for his team. Everyone else on the map falling behind. He is the single strong point for his lineup overall. That's a ton of pressure. And as you mentioned, he has tools to get away from the limited engage options on the side of low key, but needs to execute, needs to kind of just put Hani even further under if he wants to come out on top.
Hani in potentially a lot of trouble right here, getting collapsed on, playing the weak side of the map, needs to get out. Gonna have to use the ultimate to escape here. Good read by him, maybe a little bit late. You see Mega, when they're playing the map, they don't play 3 lanes. They play 2 lanes, because if you spread yourself too thin, you see situations like this. This time Hani is able to survive and only has to burn the ultimate, but realistically, this was always going to be a trade of outer turrets on both sides of the map.
Yeah. Still just a trade in the end. Rocky will grab the red buff. That will make Hani's life even more miserable. But IntelliJ has a greater advantage there, not too concerned. Of course, Morella Namicon now coming in for artifacts, so will make it that much more difficult for whatever healing he's concerned about to happen. Not sure, I guess, the Rakan Gleaming Quill or the actual heal, but...
Hey, Rocky's got a Vampiric Scepter, man. Tons of healing.
It's questionable somewhere. LS is crying out in rage. But, you know, at the end of the day, flat pen, AP, can't go wrong.
A lot of times it's about just item slot efficiency, from what I've heard pro players say about it when you need room for control wards in your inventory, but I say sell your Doran. It's probably a better strategy. Anyways, I think looking forward into this mid-game now as turrets start to fall down, controlling pockets of vision becomes a whole lot more important. I like some of the tools that low-key do have to play off of key spells, because you have the Cocoon, you have the Thresh Hook in terms of fishing for picks and these types of ideas. I think that the strength in Loki's comp is going to be because they don't have to commit off of those plays. They can throw them out and suss out whether or not they actually want to go for the fight. Whereas if you're Mega, I think you're much more tied down to Lloyd jumping in or Pop going for engage, where they have to commit their actual champion's body into the fight, which can just be much more inherently risky.
And see if they can find that setup, find that scenario. There is, of course, a lot of vision. You check in on the mini-map, of course. Decent coverage around the mid lane, decent coverage around the pit. Kind of odd vision, if I'm honest, very defensive from the side of Mega, but still does give them enough access into the river that they could contest. And low-key, it's only 20 minutes of the game. They're not realistically looking to take that objective. There have been no Mountain Drakes. You get a cloud into an ocean, not the ideal spawns for aggressive objective taking, and no real tank either. So not an easy Baron, I think, for either side in this game.
So something I think that's an option to both teams is G4 potentially going to find himself in a little bit of trouble here.
Good read, that's the Cocoon.
Venus not using his spells, though.
Style point.
Now is he caught?
Back out. Has to flash out.
That was suspect.
Look, it's fine. Realistically, DNK looked really cool. Venus, I think, needed to use that opportunity to get out, but I think he did not realize how many members of the enemy team were coming in.
Yeah, the problem there is definitely the numbers advantage. Hook does land.
Hook connects. Clyde now coming into the backside. G4 in the midst of the team. Venus still alive, but Celebrity instantly dies. Artifact trying to find something, but he gets locked in by the Camille. Yes, he's invisible. Comes Lightning, not going to connect. Artifact dashing in. The heal is there. The show. Lloyd taking out Artifact. Knocks him out instantly. And Mega coming out on top of the fight.
Yeah, Artifact getting a little excited right there. Very close to getting multiple kills, but unfortunately locked down underneath the tower with nowhere to go. That was a read where both teams realized, hey, there's going to be a fight around the mid lane after Venus burnt his flash, and both teams were contesting very heavily for vision control over that over the bush in that top side of mid lane, where you do see the one red ward on your screen currently, but sort of unfold in an unexpected way, because a lot of times you try to crash and not actually force the fight, but instead try to get pressure on top of the tower. There is the initial hook coming down, though. And while Lloyd is able to survive on the top side of the fight was actually where G4 just got straight up solo killed by Hani. Tons of damage coming through from them. And then Artifact goes in, but the heal is the bait. And he can't survive.
Nice zoom in. I appreciate it. Dramatic death. Interesting fight. I like that, and this is what we talked about, to be fair. You talked about Venus fishing for picks. They have the Elise, they have the Thresh. I don't quite think that's what you meant or what you wanted.
Well, the fight was also a 4v5 because Celebrity died instantly. 0 damage coming through from him. Now, as far as like expectations looking forward to the next few minutes of the game, something that I always like to see teams go for when both the outer towers are down is pushing out your side lanes. If you can get vision and protect your side lanes, you push out those side lanes to create pressure. And then once those waves are into the tower, the enemy team has to respond. Then the immediate follow-up is to collapse with both your side lanes, which is very easy on champions like the Kled and the Kali, and just move in towards that mid lane tower. Therefore, you can effectively get yourself a 5v3 and look to knock down that structure, because once that mid lane tower goes down, it becomes so much easier to actually advance your vision into the enemy jungle, try to set up for some picks.
But as you can see, a little bit difficult to contend with Rocky at the moment. Artifact has now been placed against the Camille, so Morelliconomicon now starting to pay off as the Ravenous Hydra for Rocky will be mitigated to a certain degree, and the great battle for Krugs will end.
The problem that's going to arise for Loki in the next few minutes, though, is that Artifact can hold against the Camille. I think that's pretty apparent here, but he's running an Ignite and not the Teleport, so it must be Hani, once Baron becomes a much more viable objective for these teams to play around, to be the one moving down in towards that bottom lane, which is always then going to put Loki on a timer, because Rocky is going to consistently be looking to push in that wave and eventually start knocking down these towers. And unless Loki can commit multiple members bottom lane and either force Rocky away, get a flash, get a kill, and buy time themselves, that side lane win condition is always going to be apparent.
And the fishing and the vision game continues. But it will not be the Baron that's focused at this stage. It will just be the Ocean Drake both teams are vying for. Honestly, objectives like this in a game like this feel more like a catalyst for a fight than an actual buff. I don't think anyone's too worried about the Ocean. Yeah, the mid lane tower will retain a decent amount of priority, and here comes the Kled. Artifact leaps right in, gets knocked right back out, but the Kled is still going forward. Will get pulled in onto the Zin. He's going to dash away. Warning shot. It's just was a warning shot. Just threw it in. Just wanted to see the reactions. Get some summoner spells to, of course, force Lloyd's flash. So a small advantage to the side of Loki.
At the same time, Loki lost a lot of ultimates here, so they really only have the calling if a fight is going to break out. So I do feel like they're a little hesitant, especially with the idea that Mega keep wanting to push in for mid tower, because at this point in the game, that mid lane outer tower is almost always going to be more valuable than especially something like the Ocean Drake. So Loki splitting up some members to try and make sure they can clear away those waves. Still, I liked the idea for Loki to try and find that fight, specifically when we look at the itemization between these two junglers. Because right now, Lloyd is going for a Trinity Force, which is something you see a lot more in solo queue than on the professional stage. And while this will give him a stronger 2-item power spike, at the same time, it delays that second item, whereas DNK just went straight for the Zonias, which is going to give him a lot of value.
I gotta hold that thought, because Hani might be in trouble here. Rocky steps forward, uses the ultimate, gets the dismount before he ults. I love it. Hextech ultimatum comes out, and Rocky grabs a very easy solo kill.
And now who actually matches Rocky? I think he could have stuck around in this bottom lane. He's making sure that he's not getting ganked immediately. But the rest of Mega can move over towards the Baron, because no one can match Rocky. He can get this tower, and if Artifact comes down, I would really like to see Mega seize an objective on the other side.
Look, I love how Mega immediately pinged the Baron after he finds that kill, knowing that they have this point of pressure now to play around. Instead, they're not going to run into the mid lane, break the tier 1 tower as G4 starts to fish for kills, and if Rocky keeps this up, he's single-handedly going to pull his team ahead in this game as the gold now veers in the favor of Mega.
And now it's going to become even easier for this split push to occur. Not just because Rocky got some extra gold and experience pushing in that wave, but with the mid lane tower falling, as I mentioned earlier, becomes so much easier to get that deep vision. And specifically because when you push down that mid lane, now all of a sudden there's no protection for Loki. So they have to wait longer for that minion wave to push all the way into them. And then they have to push out that wave while you're roaming somewhere else. So it does create these larger windows now for Mega to get things done around the map and just unlock more options for them.
And as you mentioned, 2-item power spike now comes in for the Zin. Double Trinity Forces on the side of Mega. Would not want to be caught out by the team. Elise, of course, felt like the single strong point in the early game. DNK, though, has not really got a ton of very oppressive itemization. You're falling behind in terms of experience. Could still fish for a pick, but difficult without any follow-up damage. No longer the powerhouse 2-0, at least in the early game that he once was. G4 now running. Cocoon will not connect. Artifact going to be in trouble. Dashes back, goes into the Shroud. DNK fishing for a little bit more, but Lloyd does so much back. Going going to pull away. G4 stepping forward, but now they're going to look for the collapse. Lloyd is now in trouble. The fight is turning against Mega. Loki step in, take out the jungler, but Camille's on the bot side. They're already split pushing. Loki need to make a decision, and they need to make it fast.
And now the timer is on Mega. When will Rocky commit the TP over towards the Baron? Because G4 is going back to base as well. They only have 2 members around the pit, and while DNK is low, that is not enough players to actually win a fight.
7K dropping lower. Baron 5K. Pop, of course, has the mark on him. The hook will connect. The TP now coming. He's going straight in the pit. Rocky is absolutely fearless. The Rakan engage goes in, but it's not going to amount to much. Rocky needs to step forward. Steps into Hani. Hani's still going to be alive. Rocky is spade off, but G4 now stepping in. Cannot get anything else done. Celebrity looking for more. The shutdown is there. Daewoo going to grab one. G4 going to be in trouble. He's running away, but it's a wipe for Loki. They absolutely smashed the fight. The triple for Celebrity.
A massive team fight win right there for Loki. They didn't need the Baron. All they wanted was the fight with numbers advantage. That is how you convert a single pick onto the enemy jungler into so much more. 3 kills onto the AD carry, as well as that mid lane tower, and also the TP. Probably the biggest prize for Loki now, because with that added combat power, now they also have the global advantage, so they can look for these fights a whole lot more easily. Jumping into this team fight, though, is this hook that starts it off straight onto Pop, but they wait. The TP will come on through, and I want to watch actually Artifact start this one off here, because he's the one that gets all the damage down on Pop and single-handedly zones him out of the fight. Daewoo, rather, can never get a single auto to come down. And Artifact was also able to land the Shuriken and follow up to get the kill on towards Rocky. Last time it was a battle between the mid laner of Loki Esports, Artifact and Rocky. And while yes, it was Celebrity picking up the triple kill, very well played by him, I think Artifact had so much to do with the outcome of that fight.
Now we have to see what Loki can do to push their advantage. You see 3K for both the respective AD carries, assassins on the enemy team. But with that fight, they still don't amount to much. They get the TP advantage you mentioned, but it's not the Baron. It's not converted there. And so for low-key, need to get more if they want to cement this advantage. Because once again, Rocky is still a pain point. No matter what the fight they just won, they got a lot of gold as a team, but Rocky is still almost impossible for this team to answer.
Now, the difference for them coming out of this is the fact that Rocky doesn't have the TP now. So Hani, of course, can group up with the team. You just have to play off these 30-second windows, because that's when waves, they come in on these 30-second increments. So Hani can clear away this wave, pick up the next one, and then he has some free time to roam around with his team and make a play happen potentially. Now, the problem is Rocky is always going to have control over this jungle unless multiple members of Loki are committed to the bottom side of the map. But this is going to be a situation where unless Loki are willing to make a play with this advantage, the game will just slow down because Mega aren't going to be forcing anything. They just want to wait until Rocky gets something done down bot lane.
It's just so easy for Rocky to get in and get out of any exchange. Of course, once Hani is demounted, luckily he's very close to base, but just huge amount of damage. However, Thresh and Lucian, you can see the rotation coming in. The vision is there to cover Rocky, though, so he knows that this is coming. Mission Impossible is way out. Hook shot, wall dive, blast cone. The flay is there. Going to dodge out on the hook with the ultimate. Going to try to blast cone to safety. He will manage to make it out, but Hani's now coming in. Pop going to be the one in trouble. Rocky could be next on the list. The Rakan caught up. Mega tried too hard to force the split, but no, a beautiful fight from the Zion. Now Lloyd is diving right back in. Rocky is still alive, and it's Venus who is in trouble. No one can get a smooth leg up in the fight, but Artifact slays G4 in the 1v1.
Oh, no!
Daewoo now forced to ult, now forced to run, but a mess of a fight.
Daewoo almost just abandoned by his team right there. He is able to survive, but now the TP comes in on the top side of the map. It started off with Artifact and DNK finding the kill onto G4. Now it's a 5v3 potentially around the Baron. But without a TP, it is just up to Lloyd, and he doesn't even have flash. There's no way into this pit.
Incredibly scrappy fight thus far. Lloyd still stepping forward despite not having a flash here. 3K dropping lower. It's just a spectator to this Baron's sake. Rocky, in the meantime, will start to break down the bot lane tower, but will not overstay his welcome, and that's a big advantage for the side of Loki.
It's going to be so much easier to push forward and try to close this game out. Loki now 4K gold lead on the map. All you got to do is group up and force around objectives, not start knocking down these towers. Well, this Baron isn't going to be the Baron to end the game for Loki. This is when you try to bloat that gold lead, knock down all those towers outside the enemy base.
And of course, you have to remember, Mega backs are against the wall. They lose this one. They are out of contention to leave the group. We can take a look exactly as how this happens. Not a full 1v1. G4 actually just pulls back, burns everything he has, goes back in, but surprise, surprise, there's an Akali here. You can see in his head that he thought he was going to get the fancy outplay, but just walks right back into melee range of the Akali.
Yeah, probably needed to wait for the second cast of R to come towards him and then go for the distort back, but ultimately that was almost a straight-up solo kill from DNK using all the gold he got much earlier on in the game to turn that into a team fight win and eventually that Baron. Now, can Loki actually force anything? Because I do feel like Mega have a lot of defensive tools to try and survive here. There's only really, the one ranged AD threat on the side of Loki to try and hit these towers. So the siege should be a little bit slower, but I don't think there's a whole lot of wave clear up against the Baron buff. It's really just Daewoo trying to knock through these minions. This one should go down easy.
Yeah, no real wave clear realistically on either side, unless the Xayah feels comfortable enough to step forward to try to contest some of these creeps. Maybe Rocky can find a flank, but there's the calling. We're going to take a tower shot for a bit of that poke damage as Artifact fishes for the shuriken flip, looking for a way into the backside of a team fight. Now protecting the cannon creep is the name of the game, as no one on this team can actually approach. Feathers do get pulled back by Daewoo, leads the tempo procced. Just trying to hold on for now, and you're waiting, honestly. The Cocoon does connect. Good poke damage. The AP on the Elise. Very high. The fight is kicking off. Rocky off to the flank, but he's not doing anything yet. His team might be dead before he even gets into the fight. D-Mount comes in for Honey. Honey now on the retreat, has used the stopwatch. Artifact so incredibly low. His sights are set on this inhibitor. They're just going to try to break this and leave. The fight turns against them, but low-key get what they came for. Now they need to get out before they lose anything else. Rocky steps forward and just dies. Celebrity Ensemble, now they have the potential to turn. The Baron creeps are here. It's really all on Daewoo. Lloyd and Pop just there to protect the AD carry to try to stop this game from ending.
Yeah, Celebrity did go down, but Loki might be able to force the end right now. There's so many minions inside of the base. They have to be able to find a fight, but it's not going to come.
Diving in. Last hope for Mega. They need to make this last desperate stand to hold on to the game. Redemption comes out, a bit more healing. Trying to buy more time for their AD carry, or for the carries to respawn. 37 seconds on Rocky, 31 counting down, 19 on G4.
They need the melee minions because the cannons are outside of tower range. They actually can't walk up and hit the tower.
But so much damage coming in for Artifact. They're just slowly bleeding them out. I don't think there's anything that they can do. Dale needs to find the fight immediately, but he's not doing it. He's not stepping forward, and that's going to be it. Mega, just like that, are going to be knocked out of the tournament. Low-key have secured their way out of groups.
Led by DNK in the early game, he absolutely smashed and got such a big lead for the team. Then just played off one pick, held their own in the split push, were able to not allow Rocky to take any inhibitors on their side. And they get a little bit of revenge and their spot in the knockout phase.
And just a very odd game of League of Legends, if I'm honest.
I mean, it really did just come down to the pick onto Lloyd. As soon as Mega lost their jungler, all of a sudden Rocky was forced to lead bottom lane. And this is the problem with trying to play split push compositions. If you are forced into the 5v5, you are immediately at a disadvantage, especially when it's not even a 5v5. It's a 4v5 after getting picked. He wasn't able to get anything done on the bottom side. Still though, Mega, even though they are going to be eliminated from World's contention, I felt like they came in with a unique style and were able to put up very close fights against the other teams in their group.
And some of those games are just heartbreaking because it
Sao?
felt like they had them in the bag. Because it felt like, even
Hiện tại tỷ số của hiện tại tỷ
one mistake. Both comps obviously very volatile. All it takes is a, and when you're in the late game, a single mistake to turn everything around. That does now mean though you'll have maximum one tiebreaker game. HKA and Loki will fight for the first seed in Game 6, where Loki will try to tie up the score, force that tiebreaker, so that they can fight for first seed on their own. But has to feel good from Loki. So much pressure is now off your shoulders. Obviously, being the first seed is the ideal, but just knowing that you are out, that you have made it out of groups, that you will get a chance in a best of 5, has to feel fantastic for, once again, the VCS second seed coming in and showing up.
Yeah, and of course, getting that win either way would mean that you just get first in that group. So important either way for those two teams. I think Loki's an interesting one because I thought we were going to see so much more creativity. This is a team coming from the VCS with the ability to pull off lane swaps and that sort of stuff. They came out here standard, and it has been working so far. So we'll see if they have any more time, if they want to pull out some of those crazy strats.
I want more insanity, I'm not going to lie. Because it feels like on paper we've gotten a lot of crazy picks, but the games haven't necessarily facilitated that much insanity. So I'm hoping that this last game in this group, HKA low-key, once again, Game 6, is a little bit more insane. Is a little bit more crazy, is a little bit more wild.
I'm going to say our 60-minute game yesterday was a little of insanity. That was crazy.
That was a different kind of insanity, though. That's not that I want to come through. I think I'm really looking for some explosive. It's been a while since I've cast G2.